continuing sessions of the game, there is this process, and the first thing of this process is that I read these very short notes about last session, and we had introduction scenes at first, and Scylla dreamed about his mate being killed by a knight with a half-moon symbol in his shield. And Arcturus went to a basement where there was an elf captured. He was then sentenced to slavery. Yeah.
So far.
An elf, yes.
Yeah,
I was
the
going to
elf,
say,
not
yeah.
Arcturus. Yeah. My notes after the last game was like, Zoki was horrible English. Zoki came to a restaurant. Everyone just left the building because he's too badass. He saw a beautiful carving showing an image of a mage riding a dragon and stripped down the curtains that held it hidden because he liked it. Everyone left the restaurant except Marcus, who just dined with relish and examined maps that depicted his current and future exploits in the worlds of business. That was the introduction, and then we had the first scene that I narrated. And in this scene, Scylla went to the marketplace to hoard a group of people with him to get a following for his actions. He used coin and magic, ancient stories, and personal charm to attract many people to his cause. Arcturus intervened, made his man to shoot a child in accident in process, and managed to disperse the crowd and take Scylla in his custody. Scylla was dazed by the use of firearms, as it was something he had never seen. There was an extensive slave marketing in the process when this happened, so some slavers were pissed off for this scene taking place and hindering their trade. In addition, some got very interested about this golden-haired youth, a rare specimen indeed. Then we had a second scene, which was narrated by Santiago. And it continued from the restaurant directly. Zoki and Marcus were in the same restaurant where they began and ended up fighting for who had to leave the establishment. Basically a stare-down contest between these two formidable men. Marcus prevailed and Zoki had to leave. Marcus then proceeded to eat and drink lavishly and ended up being intoxicated enough to pass out and be carried to his home by his servants. And this is where we ended last time. And now we can go through the grains list and check
I have
if
one question, actually.
Yes.
First, I didn't remember the elf guy was sentenced to slavery. Do you guys remember when that was said? Was that
Yes,
part of
I do.
the scene?
I remember
Yeah.
it from the recording that yes, he had been sent off. Now, was it the mines or the slavery Paul, do you remember?
I don't remember mentioning any mines, just slavery. But
Okay, that's
maybe,
fine.
maybe there was some talk of more specifics, but I don't remember.
There wasn't. I knew I wanted to know if that was in there at all, and I don't think it was.
Yeah.
Number two, Petteri,
Yeah.
one thing that we've been sort of making eye contact about while you were reading is that none of us take seriously the idea that that guy is actually an elf.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
just letting you know that
Yeah.
we keep making little gestures in the air and looking at each other while every time you say elf. Now,
Yeah.
we
Yes.
don't know. No narrator has picked up on that to do
Yeah.
anything with it, but that is the mood at the table at the moment.
Yeah. And
So-
maybe that's why it should have been like put in quotes the elf.
Right. That's what we've been doing that exactly while you were
Yeah.
talking.
Okay.
All
Good.
right. But those are my only comments.
Yeah, and those are like I wrote them immediately after our first session, and usually I do this because, this we have this on video, and you
Right.
have probably seen it already too many times, Ron, I bet. But but still, it's if one hasn't got any video, this helps really to bring everyone back, and it's quick to read. But yeah, next we go to the grains. And the procedure is that we check about the grains list and see if there is something that is already obsolete or something we don't need anymore.
Okay.
Before we do that, I seem to have lost the link to the document. Anyone have it handy? I'm sure I can find it, but
It's in the Skype chat, I think.
it is.
It should be in the Skype chat. You put it yourself there, Paul, if I
Yes.
remember correctly.
Good point. Good point. Let's see.
But I can also send
yep.
you the link.
Okay, we're good. I think
I-
that's a really interesting point, is to really always re-examine the grains even outside the system, just as a session feature, and make sure we're playing in the world that we want to play in, right?
Yeah. And that's the one thing, kind of zoom us in back to this, what we're doing. And the second is that sometimes, especially if there is like third or fourth session, there are some grains that are extensively used, and we feel that it's kind of like past
Right.
that. And the grains list is always good to be like only the ones that matter. And if there is something that is already like gone, then we should just delete it.
So both
If they're-
use and disuse can
Yeah.
lead to grains being retired. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
But
So what does anyone have any ideas about the grains that we don't need? Now, Pateri, is this a matter of reducing their values or of eliminating them entirely, or both?
it's about eliminating them altogether if they are unnecessary. But I don't really see anything. But do you feel that there's something that should be taken away?
I feel like we haven't played enough to be confident
Yeah.
to eliminate.
Yeah, I want to play with what we have first and really see them do stuff, and then we'll find out. Makes sense for the second session, I think. Yeah.
As I
Go ahead. Yes, Santiago.
I do have. I'm having a problem right now because I'm looking at the document, so I don't see our faces. But you guys can hear me fine. Yes. There's a couple of few that I don't like, but I don't know, because if you all are comfortable with the grains as they are, I don't think I should take away any. But there's a couple ones that I would erase with no guilt, actually.
Yeah, but it's more like if you feel that something can't be used or is used already too much. Those are like the main issues. Why to take away something?
Why? What do you mean by can't be used?
It hasn't, like we sometimes we build some grain that in the beginning of the game something that is completely out of the direction that the actual play ends up with when we play. And especially after like the 2 sessions, there might be some that, okay, there is something about mages and we haven't had anything about mages in this story, so it's just irrelevant.
Oh, I see.
Something like that. But as Paul said, we have only played 2 scenes, and it's really short, a little amount to say at this point what to remove.
Yes, there's not much. Of course, there is a lot that we haven't touched.
Yeah,
but
true.
Of course, I couldn't say we are never going to use it.
Right.
if I have to be honest, the ones I wanted to throw out were ones that I wouldn't like to go there. But yes, I cannot say that we have overused them, or what was the other one that we
To
have overused?
bypass it, that it's obsolete and we never used it. You know,
Yeah,
right. We
I can
can't
say
really
that.
say that. Yeah.
I can say either that we haven't used them or that we've used them too much. Yeah, I can do that, so it's okay.
All right.
Okay, Paul, you have the next scene,
Okay.
and now you have two possibilities to take Celia or Arcturus as your main character in this.
Oh, interesting. Can you explain why that is?
Because actually you can pick any character.
Right.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's what
The rule is
Yeah.
that who's
Yeah.
ever been left out,
Yeah.
get them.
You can pick.
But right
and
now we're at equals.
everybody at
So
tie.
you
So
are
you can
right.
Yeah. You can
Yeah,
pick any character.
That's what I thought. I thought it was,
Yeah.
open season effectively.
Yeah.
Right.
It is.
Huh. Interesting. Now I can set the scene with anyone, potentially even just one person.
Yeah.
Let me look at our grains here.
And then other players can, if they wish to, their characters to join, then we discuss if it's possible. But you decide.
So can we review the ending of the scene with Marcus and Zocchi one more time?
Yeah, sure.
What I'm curious what particularly Ron and Santiago, what sticks out in their minds as significant.
Only that we left with a great, I and cronies left the restaurant with a great show, an ostentatious show of, well, we're done now. And that, we don't need to stick around here anymore. And so therefore making sort of a false show of we didn't lose the contest even though we extremely totally did.
Right.
So we went off into the streets, probably in a bad mood, a boisterous and bad mood. So I get the idea of these bravos kind of swaggering down the streets, and this was, as I recall, actually in the middle of the day. That
sounds right to me.
And so, or at least in the late afternoon by that point, I think the time of day switched around on us a little bit, at least in my mind. So I'm trying to get it right. But the fact is that we probably are not. If you're interested, if you're not going to do a long cut and put me wherever you want, which is fine. If you really want to know what I think about right when we left, that's the image that I have of these bravos basically swaggering around and being in a really shitty mood.
Great. What about you, Santiago?
Well, Lieti passed out, remember? So he was taken home by one of his associates or employees or servants, more like an employee probably. And he's not waking up until the next day with a bit of a hangover, at least in his plans, He just fell asleep on the floor of the tavern with a big smile on his face, like.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. So what I'm encountering here is we left off with Celia and Arcturus in sort of a tense situation. It would be fun to break up the pairings we had so far, and I'm not particularly excited to play out that next scene. So I'm tempted to frame a scene with only one character.
Okay.
Start talking.
So Ron, this is going to be for you then. So later that night.
Him, the other guy. Go ahead. Sorry, Paul.
So later that night, You arrive. Where does Zoki live? What is his environment like?
Well, this is a situation like an estate. So what you might think of as a residence isn't really right. It's actually like a park, a section of city that literally is a district. And so there would be a number of different extensive properties that have a fair amount of geography. They've got their own part of the waterfront, like each one has its own little harbor basically. Each one has its areas where you can go riding, around for recreation. In the past, for hunting, that's probably not really all that viable anymore. A system of gardens, certainly more than one building. And the way I envision it is not like one of these immense blocks, like an English, nobleman's, like an English gentry's, enormous block sitting there in the middle of nothing, like you see in all those, all those BBC TV shows. But instead, a bunch of I think of it as a bunch of different buildings with different functions. There's actually a population that lives there, like almost a small neighborhood of people who live there like residents, who are more subject to us as the government. And there's a system of these different kinds of properties, of which we are just one, a very, very well regarded, well, in our minds and among their minds, well regarded. There's probably an interconnection of cousinhood across us that does not bear close inspection. And does this give you an idea? So, I mean, we've got topography, is what I'm saying.
Fantastic. Okay, so it is later that night. We, as the audience, don't know exactly what Zoki did after pretending to leave victorious from the tavern, but there may have been other kind of celebrations involved. And so this is very late in the evening. Zoki is arriving at the manor house of. Is there a name for the family or the house? Is it House Scorlato or something like that?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Great. So since this is somewhat of a play test, I'll sort of reveal my thinking here. I'm curious what happens when we have a scene with only one character, or if somebody chooses to jump in. But also, I want to sort of tie together the storylines a little bit here. So we'll see what happens. So you've arrived at home. It is late at night. You're approaching to the steps. The main building of Huskerlato is where its founder, the Mind Flayer, lives, and it's the least visited, probably the oldest building in the whole compound, where very few people come without an invitation. And you are walking up the steps. It is almost the middle of the night. There are probably a few torches burning here and there, but it's quiet. It's dark. And you hear the creaking of wheels behind you. You're probably half, looking forward to going to bed, half asleep, maybe drunk. It's up to you, depending on how you envision earlier that evening you have spent. Wow, that was an incredible sentence. I hope you understood what I meant.
I completely understand. Maybe we should just skip ahead to the next one before,
yeah,
and let that one stay on the road with its broken back. Yeah.
So there are a few clouds overhead, a little bit of moonlight peeking through. It's quite dark, very few stars in the sky. The sounds of the city are receding behind you. There's always a bit of a calm here, a silence. You've wondered if it has something to do with the elder of your house who sleeps and sits deep within the home. But suddenly there's a sound down the stairs. There's a little bit of a courtyard, and you can hear some creaking wheels, and there's a cart that's being pulled into, I guess, the courtyard, and a number of hooded figures around it, and they're moving furtively, kind of scurrying towards the stairs, clearly towards you. This is very unusual. They shouldn't really be here. You don't know who these people are. Nobody should be coming here except somebody like yourself. without some kind of
get a
specimen.
little bit more of your visuals for the scene. As I understand it, I'm filling in slightly, and you tell me if I'm wrong. I'm
Sure.
actually out on like a veranda or a patio that you would get to from a floor that's above ground, and then that veranda or patio has its own stairs coming down to the yard.
Oh, I see.
And so that way I'm kind of leaning over the the balustrade, looking down into the yard and watching these guys in the court. I'm trying to reconcile you saying I was in the house versus looking directly at these people out of the house. It seems like, and then this whole veranda kind of thing with the paneled glass doors and everything all came to my mind. And you said the twinkle of the stars, and now I'm thinking about the smell of the vegetation, and I'm feeling it so much that I'm kind of going to request that that's what we're dealing with here.
Perfect. That sounds great. I'm not concerned about the specifics of the choreography here, so that works great. So yeah, you're looking down over the balustrade. You can see this cart coming in, and it seems to you that even though it's fairly dark here, and there's only a few maybe lanterns, torches lighting this area, there's a small figure. There's a body in the cart that's being pulled by these hooded figures, and they're coming up to just below you, I guess, effectively the front door of the place. They've come through the gate, and for some reason, there's nobody here to greet them. They're not expected. This is very unusual, and you can see them kind of stop in confusion below you and approach the door. When one of them spots you and points up and says, Are you of this house? We need aid, and urgently.
I'll walk down the stairway, this outside stairway, down to them, and I'll begin with a formal statement, which is extremely neutral. It's almost a ritual statement of, you have come to this house of Scarlato. We don't know who you are. You are forfeit to us, if it is appropriate. Welcome to us if it is appropriate. We need to know, and you are on our ground. That's kind of the nature of that formal statement that I'm making. And also I'm going to say that despite his somewhat ridiculousness, Zoki is a deadly combatant, and as he moves down the staircase, at first you can kind of see him visibly struggle to overcome his fatigue and whatever else it is that he's been up to. And by the time he reaches the bottom, his poise is much more cat-like. That is to say, the grace is more cat-like, and his posture is far more erect and, centered. So by the time he gets down there, but yeah, he's willing. The statement is, he's ready to make very, very summary action if required. They need to speak up. They cough it up. You've got like 1 second.
Fantastic. I'm curious how you refer to looking for the Mind Flayer, this character who is your ancestor, the leader of the house's grandfather. How would other people refer to him?
Other people probably would call him the patriarch.
The patriarch, great.
Yeah.
Other of your family, right?
I would say that anybody would be called that in any of these families. The fact that ours is a Mind Flayer and very ancient isn't implied in that title.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, love it. So there are about five of these figures
wearing
around.
Robes and hoods and stuff.
Yeah. They clearly were. The only reason to do that in this weather is to try to avoid being identified when you're moving through the streets. And one of them steps up towards you and pulls back his hood, and he's a bald man, maybe in his mid-50s, with a big scar on one side of his face, and he approaches you with kind of his hands up in the air in a non-threatening posture, kind of having felt the Zoki vibe
Right.
come at him, and he says, "Dear Master Scrulato, whoever you may be, I am Luca the merchant, but I have no time for idle talk or pleasantries. We are here for the help of the Patriarch." Will you let us in to see him? There's very little time.
An explanation is forthcoming. Your emergency is of no interest to me.
He says, please, come, look at our burden here in this cart.
All right. And
So he comes forward.
I give a swift look across the rest, and I say, "Reveal yourselves." And then I look at Yeah, good. They take their hoods off. Okay, good. That's enough.
Well, they
of
all
that
look over
nonsense.
at Luca first, and then they do it somewhat reluctantly.
Yeah, we're on the estate. I mean, there's like acres between us and anybody. So, okay.
That's right.
I'm going to look in the cart.
So he brings you over to the cart. There's a figure in there. It is a young boy. The young boy is wrapped in some kind of cloak, like really just a blanket, and his face is pale. There's blood everywhere, and it's hard to even tell whether he's alive. And Luca says to you, "This boy is one of our house. He was shot in the city square today, and he's on the verge of death. There's very little life left in him, and I had it told to me that the Patriarch may be the only person who can save him."
We are of little interest to the merchants and the commerce as it exists today in the city.
We have lots of gold and many connections. We will be heavily in your debt if you could afford us a meeting with the Patriarch. I'm afraid we have only minutes, for his life fades away entirely.
Mention time to me again, and perhaps you will learn more of how swiftly it can move. He makes a decision. He says, "Your needs provide me with opportunity. On these, I act." And so then he turns and says, "Come," and then opens the main door and snaps for aid. Service in the house is not what it used to be, but still there is enough available attention, perhaps with people sleepily getting themselves together and stuff like that. Perhaps somebody sent running off to one of the adjoining sectors, to go fetch somebody.
There might be a couple of nighttime servants.
Right, so within not too much time, that they are, with the exception of Luca, the others are safely sequestered somewhere where they can do no wrong, and Luca is permitted to accompany me slightly further for purposes of questions. Then after that, I and a very trusted servant will take the wounded child in without Luca.
Interesting.
I'm going to tell Luca, who cares? Who cares?
I think at this,
who is this child? Who cares? Children die every day.
I think that at this point, Luca would have had to come inside without the cart, and he's actually carrying the child in his arms.
That's fine. The child will. Right. Go ahead. Yeah, and I'll ask him. Who cares?
And
Why
so
do you care?
when it
leave him in the street. The body collectors will get him.
So when he comes further in, and presumably you're not too far from the place where you might meet the patriarch, and you have explained that now you are to go no further. Luca bristles at that, and he says, "Master of this house, though you may be, I cannot entrust you with this child. His bloodline is pure. He is the last of it. I do not wish to speak too much of this, but I cannot entrust him to
Zoki puts 2 and 2 and 2 together. And he says, say no more.
Blindfold me if you must.
He says, I hear you. Come then. And the whole demeanor, I mean, all of a sudden that vicious charm, drops its viciousness, and the charm comes up, and he's like, we're going in. So the trusted servant and Luca holding the child and Zoki, these doors are clearly not opened all that often, and the passageways are, I mean, you don't just open a door and a guy's sitting there. You have somewhere to go, and so this is a creepier, older area of this older part of the whole estate. And it's also clear that it has not been updated in furniture or anything like that on the same cycle that everywhere else has. Not that everywhere else has been really all that, fashionably upkept, but this would be the utter back end of that process.
Fantastic. I love it. If is this indeed the lair of the patriarch?
Oh, yes.
I'm curious if that leaves any kind of unusual smell in the air.
Yes, as a matter of fact, it's we are going to get very retro here. Having introduced the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Monster Manual already, I'm going to go ahead and play with that a bit more, because yes, you will be descending into what is no more nor less than a dungeon. You mentioned torches before. They weren't torches; they were lanterns.
Yes.
Now, Zoki the servant, lights torches.
Fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're descending down the stairs. I'm curious if either Santiago or Petteri would like to play the patriarch. Is that something we do in this game?
Yeah, you can offer roles to different people also if you like. That's exactly if you want to do that. That's possible.
So So this is Luca carrying the child, Zoki and a servant with a torch descend down a long staircase into the very bowels of this building, where the walls sweat a little bit, and there's most peculiar scent on the air, a very inhuman smell, and eventually come to a large underground chamber with sort of water running along the outsides of the room, sort of in a little what would you call that? Like the stone has been carved to make little channels of water that run around the room. It was absolutely dark down here until the servant came down. The servant puts a torch into the wall, and at the back of the room, in a sort of a outdated throne with his back to us, is the patriarch. Petteri, perhaps you would like to play the patriarch.
Okay.
Now, I don't know. Yeah, feel free to take liberties with what he might do with a dying child. That would be part of the fun.
Yeah. Okay.
So once the people arrive down here, I think Luca looks over to Zoki. He's clearly a little shaken by this and doesn't know what to expect, and is hoping that Zoki will make an introduction.
Zoki says, "Grandfather, I have an opportunity. Rise yourself from your dreams. Look upon me, your son,
yeah, the being slowly he slowly starts to move, like before when you arrived to the room he was completely still and nothing moved, but then when Zoki starts to speak, his like tentacles start to move around him a bit, and yeah, and then a sound comes from somewhere. You don't actually hear it from
Right. It's all
like
silent. Yeah.
normally it is just you hear it in your heads, and it says that approach my child, approach and show me your opportunity.
He says, there are so few of us left, and to have one come to us in need is a rare gift. And also, here, grandfather, at last, you may also feed. With the power you gain, feed and restore. And then I look at Luca and I say, you really care about this child. You care about his bloodline. You care about what truly matters. Do you?
Luca,
And
Luca is
I give him sort of a after you to walk toward the patriarch. And the implication is I'm giving Luca to the patriarch for dinner. So that then the patriarch fed will heal the child.
So Luca trembles for a minute, and you can see the internal struggle going through his mind, and he's looking around. He's starting to sweat and shake visibly as he's holding up the child. And he takes a few steps forward and then kneels down and lays the child's body on the ground. As he does so, the child's body kind of lies in a very restful, sort of almost elegant position on the ground. And Luca kisses his forehead and steps forward. And he says, this child is the last remaining scion of the founding house of what is our city called?
Sctilia.
Sctilia, right? Of course. It's
you have too much fun with this, Terry.
Yeah. Is the last remaining scion of this house, and I will happily lay down my life to protect him, for by all rights he should sit on the throne. He kisses the child's forehead and steps forward towards the patriarch. He's visibly trembling, but he's controlling it quite well.
The patriarch rises from his. He's been sitting all this time in one place, and now he rises standing, and his tentacles start to move around a bit, and they touch. Was his name Luca? Yeah,
Luca.
They touch Luca's head, like slowly, like caressingly, his head, and they slowly pull him closer and closer to the monster, and then, without no sound, there is some kind of relation to them, between them, and after that there's this intense moment of silence and immobile. They're like statues for a moment, and then Luca falls down to the ground.
Yeah, straight down in a heap, I imagine.
Yeah.
Just limp like a rag doll.
Yeah, like a ragdoll, like nothing, like something would have been taken off from inside of him.
The child.
Meanwhile,
go ahead.
Although this is so fascinating to watch, I assume that even I would not have, just casually moved around. But insofar as I did, however, I wanted to get a good look at the child. I'm like looking at the child, and I don't know if it doesn't even matter whether I see anything or not, but I would look.
Yes, I will describe it.
Okay.
I will describe it to you in detail. So the child is he's a young boy, maybe of 9 or 10 years old, kind of delicate features, pale skin. He's clearly not in good shape, and in fact, it looks like he was shot in the side, just above his hip earlier. And there's a messy wound. It looks like whatever he was shot with is just little pieces of lead shrapnel that have gone all around his body, and so that he's been slowly bleeding out over a number of hours, presumably. A number of hours ago, his skin is pale. He's cold, kind of clammy to the touch. When Luca falls to the ground, he lets out a little bit of a moan, as though like a sleeping person would, but he doesn't react at all to you handling him.
He's dying this second, clearly. So yeah, go ahead.
Yes, but one final detail is that his right hand is clutched, and when you look in it, it's holding a golden coin with a face of a dragon on it.
Absolutely.
And
yeah,
this is
and the
everything I need
that.
to know. Yeah, this is everything I need to know right here. Yes.
And the fingernails on that hand clutching the coin have turned a strange golden color. They look almost more like scales than fingernails.
Right. Okay, perfect. I say yes, and I look up at my grandfather. You can insert all the in English great grandfather. I look up at him and I say, grandfather, it is time. Restore him. Bring him into his power. Bring him into his power and make him mine. And if this is a conflict, I'm calling a conflict. If there is, I want this done my way.
I think this could be a very interesting conflict. Would this be a conflict against the world, so to speak?
Yes.
Either that or the patriarch, depending on how Pateri wants to do it.
Yeah, but actually, it's Paul's deal, because he's the narrator. And
well,
Paul,
this is a rule question on my part, how we would handle this.
Well, you can address first if you want grains and burden readers, like which of us will be a burden reader and which of us will be the grain reader. Santiago, you were last time, if I remember, you were the burden.
Yes, he was.
Burdens. Yeah. And it's a good idea to shift these roles if possible. So
sure. So perhaps Santiago will be the grains reader.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will be the grain reader.
Now, does that leave you, Pateri, as the burden reader, or not, because you're playing a character in the scene?
Yeah, this is actually, the rule says that if there are players without characters, those players, amongst those players are chosen grains and burden reader. So I would think it's more appropriate for you to be the burden reader than me.
Okay.
And so I believe it is an interesting question, and I don't mean to introduce debate.
Yeah.
But my understanding, or guess, is that if Pateri had chosen to play the patriarch as opposing me in this for some reason, then we would have it be, then he would be the character that I would be opposing. But we don't have a write-up for him. So I guess it's just against the, but the patriarch is completely compliant, and it's just hard to do.
Yeah.
So I don't, but that's an operator question, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping you have answers to that.
Or even, there, as the patriarch is not a character in this game at all. So then it's always a conflict against the world, so to speak. There is only
yes.
one of the player characters, and the result of this conflict is that if you win this, you
I have a
can.
pet dragon.
Yeah, if you win, you can write your own grain.
I just
you-
believe I said my own grain that I have
Yeah.
in mind, but go on. Yes.
Yeah. You can instead of the passive players who don't have a character, you will be changing the world
Mhm.
with the margin of your victory. That's the difference between normal conflict between characters and
I was
conflict.
insulted by an upstart merchant today.
Yeah.
I am pissed off,
Yeah.
and I see opportunity, and I'm going to take it.
Excellent. So how do we resolve this?
Yes, if you are.
Let's just take it by the numbers, just like we did last
Yes,
time. Write down
yes,
the list.
yes. First, the traits. So it's first Zoki. Ron picks what traits aid you in this.
Okay. This is a little tricky. Could somebody, just so I don't ruin my screen, could somebody
Sure,
say what my
I've got
traits
it.
are? Yeah.
Your traits are Pride 3, Privileged Gentry 2, Dangerous Duelist 2, Mind Flayer Ancestor 1, and Handsome Devil 1.
I think I've got my pride, and I think I've got the Mind Flayer Ancestor, and I'm not really sure if Privileged Gentry applies. I think it might, because I
think
am
it
in
does.
this gentrified situation. I mean, the whole environment. I'm in my home,
Yeah.
You are.
So-
Your description is expects and receives deference and services, and that sounds very applicable to
That's
me.
true too.
Yeah.
Well, especially because
Yeah.
I just got some from one guy and want it from another. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
So that
I
gives you
believe
6
that's 3.
dice.
Yes, that gives me 6. Got my traits.
And then Santiago, you go through the grains
Yeah, okay.
and you pick the dice that help Ron and give him that, and also grains that hinder him, and you pick those for yourself.
All right.
So just in case anybody's lost, if I remember the rules correctly, what we're going to do now is we're going to build an opposing pool from
Yes.
these grains.
Yes. And still, there might be some in the grains that still even further aid Ron in his quest.
Yes.
Oh yes.
But-
I'm
but
going to say,
they go both
Santiago,
ways.
I'm not going to make any suggestions yet, but once you get going, then I'm going to lobby.
So first I choose the ones that help Ron, and then the ones that hinder him. That's
Yes,
it?
that's probably the easiest way to go.
Okay. How about Magic is unstoppable in the moonlight to help him?
Yeah. We
They're
saw-
underground.
Yeah, but they saw. Yeah. But
This is
you
at nighttime?
you said that moon is shining,
Yes, I did.
didn't you?
Very much so.
Yeah, I'm not sure if First, I'm not sure if this is magic, this ritual, interdimensional stuff, and then I'm not sure if. Then I'm not sure if how literal moonlight is, because they're in a dungeon. They're not literally under moonlight, but
You decide.
I decide.
Yeah,
You
it's up
decide.
to you.
Okay, then yes, sure. One die for magic is unstoppable in the moonlight.
That goes for Ron.
Yeah, and then let me see.
I know the one I want.
You have one that you think might help you?
You can
Well,
argue.
It's only a suggestion, and I waited until you looked up and down them first. A worm is not a man.
How will that help you?
He's a dragon. This kid is of the lineage of dragons. He's turning into a dragon.
Yeah,
And I'm saying I am bringing out that inhumanity, which is like my inhumanity as magical beings. He's not
Yeah,
just a kid. We are turning him into a dragon right now.
Dragon. Yeah, but when you introduced the Mind Flayer in the first session, you said he wasn't a dragon. And
No,
as for the kid, I'm not
but
sure.
this kid is.
The kid is
The
a
kid is
dragon.
turning into a dragon. I'm going to
Yeah,
make it complete.
The way I see it, it's the coin that's making his hand turn dragon-like. It's not him especially. So no, you won't get that die. I'm sorry.
Okay. But
The
is
one
So-
I find really
Yeah. So I see no other one that can
Yeah.
help you on this.
okay. Then the
Unless-
ones that hinder him. And Santiago, you can build up a pool of dice for yourself from them.
Okay. Yes, I will do that. So let's see. I think I'm helped by the world has changed.
Yeah, I would
That's two.
see that.
By you know what, Ron? I'm actually going to give you a couple more dice now that I think of this. Yeah, I'm giving you two more dice for Wheellock firearms are the standard modern weapon.
That's an
But
interesting idea. Yes. Go on.
that's very interesting. Why is that for him as opposed to against him?
I get that. Uh-huh.
Because
I'm just curious.
Because the Mind Flayer thing is sort of an alien, so he's well beyond our mere technology. You know, our Wheellock firearms are the standard modern weapon. That's something to scoff at.
Right.
The more we turn away from magic, the least powerful we are to the Mind Flayer, in my eyes. It's a bit the opposite that the thing with the dragon, that
Yeah, I get you.
the fire scares him.
Okay.
So I'm giving
Very
you
cool.
2 dice for that.
Okay, so I believe that I have 3 extra dice from the grains. Is that correct? Total?
Yeah.
Sounds right to me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
magic is stable in Moonlight and Will of Firearms and standard modern weapon. So going back to me, I get the world has changed. That's 2. I get the old customs of the city are being discarded. That's 2 more.
Okay.
And
Oh, great.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Ah. Eh?
Oh, will you stop that?
Ominous, ominous.
I know.
I have to say it now, don't I?
Yes.
You don't have
Yes,
to
you have.
use it, but you can say it.
Hi, this is so hard.
Go ahead.
His greed and magic contradict each other,
Yes.
and he's holding a fucking golden coin. I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's more than the coin. He's doing this for his
Yeah.
own benefit.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
this is excellent. I think
No,
that's
motivated
it.
is fairly
perfect. I
wide reading.
embrace that as my antagonist with great with great joy.
Yeah,
Yeah, completely. I completely
Yeah?
embrace that. Yeah, that's great.
yeah,
We don't. By
All
the
right.
way, we don't have to approve, Santiago. We just do.
yeah.
Okay, all right. So there's 3 more dice for me then,
Yes.
and that's it.
Okay.
Then
Fantastic.
you roll the dice.
Okay.
Me too.
Yes.
All right. Oh, I made a mess. Wait a minute. How many dice did I say I had? Do you remember?
You had 2 and 3 and 2. It's
3 and okay, it's okay.
7.
The scoring
7
system is what gives me 2 points on a die?
6.
6.
What gives me no points on a die?
1, 2, and 3.
1 and 2 and 3. Ouch. Okay. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points.
Ooh.
That's nice.
Well, I don't know about points, but I have 2 6s, a 5, a 4, a 3, and 2 2s.
That's 6 points.
7 on 6.
Yes. Okay.
Burden reader.
Yes. Except that if Ron, you wish to activate Shadow at this point.
I think I've already activated Shadow without any
Yeah.
further role playing whatsoever.
Yes.
So the
you-
extra dice in question.
So yeah, you bring in your shadow and dice. I'm just looking up your shadow since you said you don't have the sheet in front of you.
I believe I have 3.
Correct.
So I can roll 3 extra dice if I want.
Yes. I have to ask, how many ones did you roll already?
I
Yes.
already rolled 1 1. No, I have 1 1 standing right now.
Yes.
So your fold limit is 2.
Yes.
Right.
So if
I
you
roll a single one, well, I've still got flame to worry about. I have
Yeah.
1 whole flame, I believe.
That's right.
So
Yes. It's risky, but you can make it. Yes.
The odds
3
are in your
more dice.
favor.
Yeah.
I gain 1 more point, and I gain 1 more 1. So I have 2 1s at present.
Ooh.
But
So and 8 points now.
correct.
Yes.
Could have used
Okay.
a couple more 6s in that last shadow roll
Yes.
there, but that's okay.
Now the next one. So you are at 8, right?
Still, though, I've got a lot of burdens, and they're pretty difficult.
Yes.
So
And
might
they
need-
are
I might
going
need-
to make you reroll next. Let's see. You have
probably all of them.
your vicious, frustrated, and deluded. What can I? Do I have to say anything?
I actually think I'm going to lobby. I think 2 of those actually work in my favor. I think vicious and frustrated actually probably work in my favor, not as a burden. But it's up to you.
I think that vicious really doesn't help or hinder you here, because you're vicious and your family is vicious and you are all quite vicious, but frustrated can make you behave more above your status than you should, and deluded also can make you believe that you matter more than you do in minds of the patriarch. And you remember that he does not only see you, he can see your thoughts also.
Right.
So
I'm messing with something pretty powerful here. That's true.
yeah.
Okay.
So you have to roll 2 of your 6s.
Here they go. Goodbye, 6s. And I lose 2 points, but I don't get any 1s.
Oh, so it's a tie now.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tie. And
Okay.
now
That's
you
interesting.
can. The next thing you can use a flame.
I have 1 flame, so I can
have
reroll
one.
1/1. Correct?
I know.
Oh, that's right. All of them.
All of
You can
your ones.
You can re-roll any dice you want.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have plenty of dice here, so here we
But
go. But I know,
Yeah, you
I know
should-
the chance for 1s. I get it.
Yeah.
But all I need is
So-
1 point.
So for
Yeah.
and, well, you also need to avoid folding, ideally.
I'm well aware of that. If I roll
Yeah.
all of them, the folding chance goes up.
Yes.
But you know what?
Not hugely.
You know what? I don't care. I don't care.
So just for our benefit, Ron, which dice are you re-rolling and how many?
I just chose. I was going to strategize for 3 because then I'd be guaranteed almost of getting the point I need and minimize the chance for a 1. 3 would be the strategic thing to do. The extravagant thing to do is to say I'm going out with a blaze of glory because now we're going to have a dragon.
Yeah.
And then Zoki's role would be over, and I would play somebody else, and that's cool.
Yeah.
That could be done.
Rolling two ones is not that likely.
Yeah, it is. I'm rolling 8 dice.
Oh.
But did you leave your 6s and?
Yeah, I left my 6s and my points. I have 8 dice of 3 and below.
Ooh. Ooh.
God damn.
I know. You know what? I'm gonna make it 5. I can't face it. I'm gonna make it 5. All right. Ha and ha. Ha to all of you. My total is 6 points and 1 point with 1-1.
So you don't fold, and you get 6 more.
I get 6 more points? No, I have 6 total now.
So you didn't roll any points at all?
No, I did roll points on that. That doesn't make any sense. But remember, I had to remember I lost my 6s.
Ah, you lost your 6s already.
I lost my 6s already. So I was already down to 2 points.
Yeah, but you still had. So you're still tied.
Yes, I am.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yes, but you don't fold.
That's correct.
Okay, and now, as you don't have any more flame, the next thing is to work out a compromise, or then the narrator thinks of something that prevents this from happening.
So
prevents
it from concluding, not
yes,
right.
yes. And in this situation, I think that it must also the boy can't die because you would lose the chance that you're now trying to get.
So let me just rephrase it as clearly as I can to tell me if I have it right, which is that Paul must choose between 2 options. Option number 1 is to simply, as we say in English, kick the can down the road, which means delay the outcome.
Yes.
And then the other is that he comes up with an outcome that is some sort of devilish compromise twist where I succeed but don't succeed, but I don't succeed, but I do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and in that latter choice, it's actually you can affect it, Ron. You have to accept it.
Oh well, yes. I matter of fact, as far as I can tell, at this point, I don't have any narrational authority at all. So, so Paul, however you want to go with those things, what you can't do is just make me fail.
Yep. Right. So here's what happens. In the interest of time, I won't describe this in any great detail, but the patriarch has you bring up the boy's body to an altar at the back of the room, and a lengthy ceremony goes on for a number of hours, where the patriarch inserts his tentacles in various strange ways into the dying child's body, and sucks out the blood around the wound, feeding himself ever further. And by morning, by the time the moon has set and the magical time is over, the child gasps a breath of his first breath, let's say, and his eyes open, and he looks at you, Zoki, and he says, "What is this? You've brought me back somehow from that terrible place." But at the same time you heard the child's voice say that, you also heard the very same words spoken into your mind in the patriarch's voice.
Oh.
So the patriarch is now controlling the child.
Yeah.
Is the child looking draconic, for example? Does he have cool dragon eyes or anything like that?
I think his eyes are slitted,
Right.
kind of like a snake's eyes, and his hair is starting to turn golden.
Right. Perfect. Perfect. All right then. I look between the two of them and I say, a good start. And I swallow hard, realizing just how dangerous this is, and I say, we'll talk later. For now, and I'm speaking to them as a single entity. For now, just rest. And I'll lean down and I'll pick up the fallen gold coin and I'll take it with me. And we'll leave.
This is all I have for this scene,
really,
but
really
I
pooped
have
out. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I have a final question for Zoki, which is, what happens to those 4 men who are being held in a room somewhere?
You know,
How do you deal with them? And I'm not interested in playing this out.
No, I know that. I think it's time to be constructive. I've been ruthless enough tonight. I'm going to be constructive, and I'm going to say that I will tell them the boy will live. He will stay here. You are welcome here. Or should you care to be to return incognito, you may. I may contact you in the future. I will have no special requirement. You are under no formal obligation to the House of Scarlato. Your work here tonight is greatly appreciated. The implication is don't ask questions.
And what understanding do you think they leave with about the fate of Luca?
I'm sure they know that he is either completely under obligation to us in some horrible way, or that he's dead. But whatever it is, they realize that he's paid, and they are not to ask. This generosity on my part, they're saying, wow, he's being really generous and really nice and all kinds of things. That's the scale going down to like, oh, what balances that scale? Gee, where's Luca? Oh, okay then. You know,
perfect. So these merchants came from somewhere called House Arbori, and they head home imagining the very worst about Luca's fate. Probably 4 different versions of the story.
That's right. Yes.
We'll leave it at that.
Perfect. All right. Well, that was, shall we say, not entirely unsuccessful.
That was powerful. Very powerful.
All right, you bastard. What are you going to burden me with?
Yeah, now we vote for flame for Zoki. 1, 2, 3.
How much was it that we
start all over again. Santiago's been confused about the voting the entire time. So explain it to him.
And it would be,
he's been trying to figure it out the whole time. Explain it to him.
I think it would be helpful to have some guidelines around this for beginning players.
I just don't remember whether we could vote like how much. I can't remember if it's 1, 2, or shot 1 and 0 or what.
0.
1, 2, or 0.
Correct.
Yes, 1, 2, and 0.
And
2 is yes. 2 is for like maximum in the game. It's like the most powerful scene ever you can imagine, and that is.
Or another way to look at it is you want to keep the guy in the story.
Yeah.
In the long term.
I think so. Can we have a slight discussion about this?
Yes.
I was going to talk to Pateri about this anyway. I was trying to figure out how to vote for Flame, and it occurs to me that effectively what we're doing, though not exactly, is if we vote 0, we're sort of expecting the character to fade out, to drop out of the story, or to fold soon. If we're voting 1, we want to push them as a protagonist. We want them to be further engaged at the level that they are. And if we vote 2, we want to kind of put them to the top of the heap as the main character or the most involved, kind of push them to the top of the narrative interest.
Maybe. I'm not so sure, because the voting for one person for maximum flame doesn't mean that you're cheating. You're taking it away from anybody else. It's not zero sum.
Yeah.
So I don't really see that as a comparative thing. My take is similar to yours, except it simply is a matter of, did we see this character at his or her best, and I don't mean moral best, I mean in the terms of their impactful best.
Yeah.
You know, did we
Yes.
see them really in fruition at
Yes.
this point? That to me is Maximum Flame. And that's sort of, I'm just verbalizing kind of where I stand relative to that stuff.
I understand it as how much do I want to see more of this character? The reverse of how anxious would I feel if someone were to take him away from the story, you know, so, something like that. So I'm not sure about the, you know, I actually want, I know what my vote is now.
Right.
Maybe
maybe our different
such a
understandings are compatible. We don't all have to completely agree.
Yes, and this
so.
is written in the game text also, that because this is done through voting, we all have slightly different views of what flame and shadow is. Even though we might discuss it endlessly, still we have different understanding.
One of the things I really value about your design, and which I'm bringing up as issues for the other designers of those 3 other games to consider, because everybody's going to come to their own conclusion, is the role of consensus in a game of this kind.
Yeah.
When is consensus the enemy? And I will say that there are times when consensus is the enemy in this kind
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So
Tron.
yeah, but that's so, you know, a given designer will modulate that. There are interesting places to insert it, but to always kick to consensus because we all love each other and agree, it's like, no, we are not playing that game. Thank you. Okay, so anyway, enough.
I do have, wait a minute.
Okay, yeah.
I do think I understand Flame better, a lot better than Shadow, because I get the thing of how in danger is the character of falling out of the story. But I'm not sure what happens if someone gets a lot of Shadow. In the game, what will happen to the
Same. It is easier to fall from the game if you have greater shadow, but also
I was in danger of leaving the game right there because of Shadow of 3.
Yes, and also the shadow is great power. The character is very, very powerful if he has lots of shadow.
Although I would say shadow is less powerful than flame.
Yeah. But it depends.
Yeah, okay, Gandalf.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, we get it. You know, whatever. Just because the author's on your side. I threw over a cliff with a ball rock and the author brings you back. What am I supposed to do?
Well, I can explain in particular why, because we gain more and more burdens as the game goes along, which effectively devalue shadow and value flame higher as the game goes.
But it doesn't work that way, because flame, the flame lets you re-roll dice, but you don't get new dice. Shadow brings your pool higher. It gives you more dice, which it ups your maximum result very greatly. Because
let me see if I get it, if I'm getting it. So if I make one character have greater shadow, that could be a temptation for its player to use more power and endanger the position of the continuation of the character in the game.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
I also suggest, Santiago, I mean, I don't want to interfere with your conception, but you're looking ahead to what will happen to the character later. I think that's a trap. I think if you simply look at it as enjoyment, excitement, and moral judgment, and just let the impact on the story later take care of itself, it's stochastic anyway. It's a dice probabilistic thing. It's not deterministic. So just go ahead and let that be an effect rather than a strategy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just go shadow if I think the character is doing
wicked things, terrifying things, has brought a darkness to the story.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, now let's vote flame for Zoki.
I am, of course, the author of the Humanity, Mechanic, and Sorcerer. So you can
1,
see that.
2, 3.
Flame. Oh, how many, Terry? I can't see.
Yeah.
Oh, 2. Okay.
Oh,
I get 2
yeah.
flame. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I get that's a lost 1, and I've got 1, and I got 2 back. Excellent.
I was actually considering throwing 2 myself, so
yeah, that's
that was
all
a
right.
good vote.
Good enough. And here it comes, everybody. All right then.
Shadow. 1, 2, 3.
I can't see you, Pateri.
But-
Well,
Yeah, we
I
can see.
can't see.
One.
Oh, 1. Only 1.
One.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I was
Wow.
really thinking I was going for
Interesting.
yeah. Go figure. All right then. So I have.
You
one-
saved an
yeah.
innocent child.
Oh,
I know. The Disney princess at work.
Clearly, for all the best
Somewhere in there,
reasons.
somewhere in there is a Disney princess.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've I know.
We all want a
Sentimental
Disney princess as a
fools,
pet.
all of you. Let's say to recap now, I have a total of 2 flame and 4 shadow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I can put that into the sheet. Is that okay for everyone?
Yes, please.
I'm just asking so we don't do it twice. There we go. It's done.
Yes.
So
Okay.
your fold limit is still 2, Ron, until you get 1 more shadow.
Okay.
Then it's
1.
1.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
I'm
it's
afraid
very
that's
bad.
That's a one-way trip. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
okay. But really, Piteri, it's kind of interesting. I went through this with Michael Miller in his first version of With Great Power. He had a mechanic by which aspects of your character became devastated and you would lose them. And
Yeah.
so you often, as a superhero, had to choose between the, what aspect of you were you willing to lose. And he kept talking as if this were a terrible disaster. He kept
Okay.
talking as if the way you played was you would do anything to keep an aspect from being devastated. And I completely looked at it differently. I'm the one looking at the sheet and saying, no, I'm thrilled at the choice. I'm thrilled at the opportunity of having to choose what gets devastated. Why do you keep talking as if I keep playing to keep that from happening? I'm strategizing. Well, you're going to want to strategize this so you won't have to face that. And I'm kind of like, are you kidding? Give me the cards. More cards, more. He says, but then that might be devastating. I'm like, I know, I want to do this thing. Come on,
Yeah.
And so I think I'm saying the same thing to you. You keep saying, look out, your fold limit, you lose your character. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? What do you expect?
And yet you didn't re-roll all 8 dice.
Yeah, I almost did. I rolled 5. I flinched at the very end, and that's probably why I had that damn tie. But but to let you know, when I feel like it, when I want to risk the character and say goodbye, because look what happened.
Yeah.
yeah, but in this game, if you lose the character, you get another one, right? Is it like that? Because you were saying a few minutes before, well, if I lose the character, maybe I'll play some other character.
Right, I can't remember if that's correct in this game. In this game, it may be that I just become a burden guy and a grain guy, and I think I do, and that's okay too. I like the burdens and the grains. Why not?
Yes, and you are narrator, of course, at your turn. So it doesn't.
I see no downside.
Yeah.
I actually wouldn't have minded if Zoki actually had become a catalyst for Arcturus and Scythia to have their big showdown.
Yeah.
You see, I don't care. That sounds great to me. Everybody will remember Zoki, right? So
yeah.
However, he's still in it, but that could have gone that way, and I would not have considered that losing.
Yes.
I will be very disappointed if he doesn't duel someone.
Oh yeah. Maybe we got one good sword fight in there for us. Yeah.
So, I'm sort of personally invested in Zoki because that you played so nicely too.
Right.
Yeah, like the character concept.
Yeah.
So, and I love what you've done with it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I like all the characters so far.
Yeah.
I'd love to discover if there is anything good in the heart of Arcturus somewhere, because we haven't seen it yet. So I'm real curious. But
so am I.
Yeah. Let's. Don't I get some burdens? I hate to say. Isn't somebody going to mess with me?
What happens on a tie?
Shit! I forgot something.
Yeah.
If there is a tie, then the world is changed with 1 point, and you get 1 point burden.
Okay.
And that was supposed to be done before the
Before Flaming
narration.
Shadow.
But
Before the
Yeah.
narration. Oh, well,
Yeah,
you know,
but-
I hear you. I think we can retcon that pretty easy.
yeah,
Do I get to change the world? Is that right?
actually it is, because you didn't win, it is going to be Paul who changes it.
Oh, me.
Change the world.
Very
Yes.
interesting.
Raise a
But,
grain, lower a grain, or add a grain,
yeah.
right? That's the choice.
Actually, yeah. Paul and it's Paul's and Santiago's like together, and I will pick up your burden.
Okay.
So,
Santiago, I have an idea for a grain, but I don't want to bulldoze over something if you have an idea as well.
You know what? Yeah, you go. You. Let's hear.
Well,
What's
I
your
like the idea is to make the boy into a grain.
yes,
I'll-
that's a
I'll-
great idea.
So I will start typing here. I will name him Nicolo. Um,
Uh-huh.
um,
Sayur. With
I'm trying to think of an economical way to explain that his mind is torn between
Actually, I would
dragon self.
I would say that one thing that would have to be, I mean, again, lobbying way too much and out of my authority here.
You
The
can
one thing
lobby
that-
whatever you want
right,
because you don't decide.
Right. Well, the one thing that all of our narration said, and this isn't just me trying to get my way. This is just going on the thing that all of us took as a given in the narration, is that he is becoming a dragon.
Yes, and
And
I think
that's
we
just-
would be
it's a
taking that
given.
away
Yeah.
because that's if you had lost the conflict, we could take that away. But you decidedly even
So
you know
it seems to me like that's
risk-
practically written that, because remember, we were supposed to do this before we narrated. So if we work backward from the narration, that is the one thing that is for sure.
Well, Santiago, what I would like to
He was
say
already
is that
becoming a dragon, so it wasn't like it was something due to my
Yes.
winning or losing. That's why I'm saying.
what I would like to say is that he's torn between the dragon self and the mind flayer possession.
Yeah. But you only have 1.1 grain to work with here.
But I was just thinking of a descriptor for it.
What was the boy's name?
Nicolo.
Paul, I'm not sure if you heard my lobby. My lobby was that you don't have enough points for that.
I don't know if that's how it works. Does it, Petteri?
What? You don't have to. You have only 1 point now to change. You can only bring new grain with level 1 if you want.
But can't the description of the grain include that he's torn between
yeah,
these two things?
yeah, it can include anything. But still,
How does
you
how
can
does a
lay.
character work as a grain? Because you could just add a grain that said there will be more than one dragon or something like that. Like a more general thing. Because I'm looking at the list and we have a place, we have ideas, we have characteristics like the city council is noisy, busy, etc. But how does that? Yeah, that thing, Nicolo, young scion of draconic blood who is possessed by the patriarch. How does that work as a grain? That a character is a grain? That's my question.
It works just like a place, because if you want to destroy that from the story, if you want to kill, for example, you have to have a conflict against it. And if the boy aids you, you get 1 point. If the boy aids your enemy, he gets 1 point. It works just exactly the same way that the other grains. He just represents a non-player character in this story.
Yeah, I love it then.
And I gave Zoki a new grain, a new burden, and it was he's protective over Nicolo. And
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
because now we have to see some positive feelings about it.
I see what you mean. Okay, good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well,
That's
in a
great.
way, it's kind of nice. It shows that there's more here than just frustration and delusion. He's got some hope. There is actually some hope at work here.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Now, I would like to request a 1-minute pause, and I will be
Yes.
right back. Is that okay?
The interesting question that we have as consultant and client concerns, well, it relates very strongly to, are you consulting to promote and to learn how to teach, to learn how to promote, to come up with some form of useful product promotion for what you already have, period? Or is some degree of revision possible? And is it revision just of explanation and framing for the text? Or is it revision of procedure? Just in other words, how deeply are we consulting? As a client, what are your goals in that?
My goal, in the beginning at least, was to get to like find out how to promote and how to bring out this game to the public, so that I could like show or make the reader understand what it is about. That was my main idea. But of course, I'm always interested about procedures. And the thing is that while there might be, if there might be things that could be done or should be done to like modify the game or something like that, then I would like to hear them also. But that would be like a long-term process for me, because at the moment I think that at least at this moment I'm not going to rewrite it immediately again.
Right. Well, I'm going to say that as far as the nuts and bolts procedure, like, here's the procedure, here's the dice, that kind of thing, it's a beautiful game. So therefore, I'm not inclined to go in at that level. I am inclined at an intermediate level, which is not just promotion of the text as it stands, but a little deeper than that. Let's look at the pedagogy of the game itself. Right? Let's look at the pedagogy of you. I'm going to put it this way. You do not have the problem in your text of trying to present a large theoretical encyclopedia of the game. That's the first problem that people do. They produce a large theoretical encyclopedia of the game and call it the rules. And they think that all they have to do is make every entry clearer and clearer and clearer, and that's better writing. And then I have to break people of that all the time. But you don't have that problem. But what you do have, and this may not be necessarily a problem, but it is a characteristic difficulty in Europe, is that to say, well, it's like a board game, and if I just present the steps of what to do, then we'll be fine. And that's not quite true. And so what I need to do is to say, all right, without really changing anything, because your steps are all perfectly clear. In fact, I even misunderstood something, and I said, well, I'll go and check and see where the steps misled me. No, the steps didn't mislead me. I was just stupid. So, that's a good test, right? That's just a good test of saying, are these things clear? They are. The steps are there. But are they the right pedagogy for the person who is struggling? What is the way that a person can go astray? And the person writing the rules would say, well, it's not my fault he went astray. And yet, from a pedagogy standpoint, the answer is yes, it wasn't your fault, but that still doesn't mean you shouldn't work to make it happen, keep it from happening. And
make
so
it more
that's
difficult.
Yeah, and so again, from a teaching standpoint, the idea is to look at the midline of student. Never mind teaching to the students who come in fully motivated and fully prepared. What is the best way to teach to the person who is struggling with misperceptions, struggling with their why should I be here anyway? Now, a person at the low end of that, you can't do anything with. You can't make somebody do something they don't want to do or simply cannot understand. But you can work with the person in the middle. And now, how do we structure the class to maximize the gain for that person? That is where we are working in your. That's my job as consultant, is for us to first to force you into that mode of thinking, right? And then second to say, all right, now that we're here, let's brainstorm. So so you guys came in on the end of a little bit of mid-session consulting, because I'm trying to think about meeting Peteri's needs, and we are both discovering where those needs are. That's exactly our step right now.
Then it is Ron's turn to narrate.
I'm so tired. Okay. Right then. And it's anybody but my own character, I believe, is my situation.
Yes.
All right. Well, in that case, I am going to do exactly the opposite. I'm going to have a great big monster mash. And I am going to say that we have a confrontation. We do an event. Actually, I'm going to start with the visuals. Never mind the concept. It's all about the visuals. Arcturus, where is...
Wait. Can you repeat the last thing you said? It broke.
Oh, I see. I am simply going to begin with descriptions and with situations rather than explaining myself.
All right.
We are at the official citadel of Arcturus profession. My take is that it is very bureaucratic looking. I think we saw you coming down going up these steps before. The stereotypical Lubyanka of the Soviet Union and is the image that I have. It is a very bureaucratic but very imposing looking building, much more like the facade of an urban university, perhaps, on a city street. And so however,
probably some unsightly modern architecture.
Somewhat, yes, but still gaudy in its. It's been repurposed from an older building too, so it still has some grandeur. Somewhat debased by its bureaucratic usage, one would say. And so however, its doors currently are open, and there is a delegation of merchants, among whom is included Arcturus, who is currently looking a little ill compared to all the others. Yeah. No, sorry, not Arcturus. No, you're not a merchant. No, I said this is Lieti. This is a delegation of merchants. Lieti is there, and rather than being firm in purpose and agreed upon and excited to be there like they are, he's looking like he's looking around for some sort of container, uncertainly.
Now it all makes sense.
Right, and so
some sort of what?
Something you can throw up in if necessary. If you need to throw up.
Of what?
Bucket.
Yes, bucket, container.
Bucket.
Anything.
Your Lieti's hangover.
Yes. Okay, so Santiago, can you hear me? You see his connection is breaking up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Santiago, since you're involved, we have to make sure you can hear.
We could restart the call or have somebody connect and reconnect.
Yeah. Santiago, break.
The
leave
thing
and
is,
come
it's
back.
happening
Yeah. Leave and come back.
Okay. Leave.
Yep, and there,
Hey.
and yeah, and then this is the scary part, of course.
The crucial second step.
Yeah.
Technology.
I noticed
Well,
there's
we are being very global at the moment. This is
Yes.
my most international game. There is not
This is-
one. This is great. There is not one American in America in this game, or in the U.S.
This
I
is
should say, which
a
is great.
remarkable bunch.
We have two Americans and nobody in the U.S.
We cover 3 different
Well,
continents.
I was going to say no, 3 Americans, right? But I'm residents elsewhere.
Mhm.
As I like to say, todos somos americanos around here.
Ah.
What happens?
Well, Santiago has told us that he's coming in, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see his little icon up here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Skype
start.
is jumping and dancing for me. So
Yeah. Skype is trying to
he's
fulfill
trying to keep
its
him. That's
destiny.
right. Yeah, Skype is saying I don't feel like being, quite so kinky.
Well, I can say that it was interesting to see a conflict against the world. I couldn't quite remember the procedure, so I was a little hesitant about introducing it. But it works nicely.
Yeah. Well, there's also the tricky thing that if characters become grains, then conflicts against those characters become technically against the world, but you're dealing with a character. So.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, Santiago.
Hey!
Better?
I think so. Let's see.
Okay.
It's so weird right now to be in different order.
I know. Yeah. Excellent. Okay.
The month mass has begun.
So we have the situation with Lieti is in this crowd of merchants at the gates, the doorway into Arcturus headquarters.
Yeah.
And the reason they are there, one of them is Lieti was supposed to speak for everybody, but he is looking like he's about to throw up and not paying attention very well. And so someone else has to give the speech.
No.
And so the person who gives the speech says that we are here because we, as the Service Providers Organization, a new organization among the merchants. The service providers are the by which they mean human traffickers, of course. They are here in the authority vested in them, which they just voted on last night, a week ago. But the authority that they have toward policy over newcomers to the city has been violated by this office, and they demand that that this prisoner, this person who's under their custody and under their jurisdiction, they need to, whatever's going to happen with them has to occur with a representation and a meeting. They like meetings. And so that basically Arcturus, you can't have him, at least not the way you want him. And this all has to be conducted in a completely different fashion, subject to the subcommittee that's going to figure out what that fashion is any minute now. So until then, cough them up.
So they're on the stairs of let's call this building the repository, since that's one of our grains.
Absolutely. And so yes, the repository. And well, you just got yourself a bunch of weapons, didn't you, you bastard? And so
is that the same place?
I believe so.
I believe so, but I'm not entirely.
They want the golden haired man. That's what they want.
That's what you mean. They, you.
You.
Yeah. We want. Well, I don't know.
You've been dragged along because you're a member of this particular council.
Yeah,
everybody had to come. This is that same guy who got you from the restaurant and took you home. He's also the one who stuck you in your clothes and slapped your face a few times and shoved you out the door to go on this particular planned event.
Yeah.
Um,
So they want they know that the golden-haired man was the guy who disrupted the.
Absolutely, that's where they saw them. That's where they saw him and decided that they wanted him to be a valuable commodity.
And we know that he's desired by this community
Precisely. And so
Yeah.
I will also point out that I mean, you're not a human trafficker, as you said, but you were on this council because Lieti gets on every important council.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
And,
So right. So now here you are.
The slave trade needs to be protected. Of course, it's a new thing, you know.
Free markets, everybody. Free markets.
Yeah.
Free market means. And so evidently.
So what is it that what is this meeting for? They want to get the guy and turn him into a slave, like right now, something like that?
Well, the point is that he's a newcomer to the city who is of interest, so he's already under the jurisdiction of this group, which is a fancy way of saying they can make anybody a slave if they want to. And so, but the idea here is that Arcturus has taken this guy and is subjecting him to who knows what horrible, interrogations. But that means anybody interesting. That means this office can take them. And no, it's time to work this out. It's time to figure out which of these offices is actually in charge of interesting people, like really, really, really super interesting people. And so they are busy. This is the case they are making. And Arcturus, you can't avoid this. These guys have legal power on their side. And your thugs are one thing, the constabulary is another, and this all has to do with the fate of Scylla, and Scylla at this point is very likely to be brought physically. They need to see that Scylla is okay, unless Arcturus wants to make a point of that. Just simply having him physically be shown to be all right, then he will be physically present.
I think Scylla is unhurt and somewhere nearby, but out of sight at the moment, so he could be produced, on short notice if necessary.
Excellent. I have all three characters in front of me then.
Yeah. Because Arcturus is a little he gets worried about this kind of thing, and he has actually been very gentle with Scylla so far, offered him food and drink and so on, and was just about slowly considering how to undertake a civilized interrogation when this all began.
Right.
And so, of course,
I need to get ahead of the situation right now. This stupid other Americans are going to fuck things over. This is just stupid. This is a waste of energy and time. And if we lose this, we will. No, I need to be ahead of the game here. I need to be the delegate of all the merchants and be the one who talks in private with Arcturus and with the golden-haired man, if need be. But I need this to be over quickly, and I need us not to lose. I need them to acknowledge my authority again.
This is the slaver libertarians against the deep state.
I think this is when the doors first open.
Yeah.
I need to command my people. They need to listen to me, not this other guy who was speaking because I was supposedly ill or whatever.
Tell me what you do. This is where I'm going to show my colors as narrator. I don't want explanations. I don't want anybody telling me about their feelings. I don't want goals. And I sure as shit don't want stakes. I want to know what your characters do.
Well, my character, the first thing I want my character to do is to, how do you say in English, to do or give or wherever, I don't know what the verb is, to do a big burp, you know, like and come to his senses immediately. He needs to be at the top of his game right now. Like hangover, over with the hangover right now. I'm perfect. So I need to do that. Is that a conflict?
Not at all. No, you are telling me what you do. You keep going.
After many years of practice.
Just keep telling me. Just keep telling me what you do, and I'll let you know when the dice come in.
All right.
Right.
So I make a big burp and come to my senses, and with just a burp, I get the attention of a few of my comrades. I look at the guy that brought me here. I pat him on the shoulder, good, well done. And I approach the guy who was speaking on my behalf, and I do the, you know, when you salute someone and take him by the shoulder at the same time, and I said, "Those were good words." Yes,
Yeah. Now shut up. Yeah.
Yeah, and then as I'm doing that, saluting one and then the other, I'm going. Reaching the, how do you say, it's like climbing a ladder. I'm suddenly the first guy of all the people who are there. I'm in the stairs, I'm near Arcturus and whoever is talking to him, and I say, I interrupt whoever is talking to Arcturus, and I say, what would be the proper term? Officer? What's your position?
I like that.
How do I approach you?
I like officer.
Officer, please. Officer, please. We just want to have a few words with you as fellow citizens. We are deeply concerned about what's happening here in our city, and we wish to be of help. We know that someone has disrupted. This man has disrupted the market, and the market is, as you know, the heart of this city. I actually think it will be more conducive for this event, and when I say this, I glance at all the other Americans like, come on, don't be stupid. Right. I actually think it will be more conducive to all of this if you and I had a private chat together. I can speak, no, I won't say that, have a chat together, that's it.
So Arcturus, he's standing there, the sun is coming down, and wherever it touches the skin, he's sweating, and he's kind of trying to keep, he's got a big black hat
I offer him a handkerchief.
And I would be very glad to take this indoors, away from all this noise and all this chatter, this terrible mess. Do I have your confidence? If you come with me, we can sort this out between us. We don't have to deal with this mass of barbarians.
Cythlia is present.
Yeah.
Cythlia is present already?
Oh, yes. I had established.
Not visible.
What I would like to say is perhaps Cythlia is there, but disguised somehow, perhaps just in a cloak behind me, because I wanted to be able to reveal him if necessary to the crowd.
Okay.
Oh.
Does that work?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. As I say, I like to go with what characters have do and say. Now, establishing what they have done and said is dicey. My visualization was that in response to the initial demand for Cythlia's presence, that Paul had said that he was easily available and to hand and could be produced. And
yes.
I responded saying, and that's what has happened. That is the case.
Okay.
so
that is the case. I am so all subsequent play
Okay.
from that point, Scythia is standing there.
Okay, so invisible to all.
Right, and that does not contradict anything that that Santiago has said.
Yeah.
Doesn't
That
contradict
works for
anything.
me.
Everything you say is completely the case.
Sounds
But
great.
I want all three characters to be present and accounted for, visible and active. Anybody can say and do anything. Santiago and Arcturus have just, Lieti and Arcturus have just had a little interaction. There's no conflict in Lieti taking the stage because, frankly, they like you taking all the risk and not them.
Yeah. Yes.
So
It would be a
carry
good
on.
time
Right,
to
carry
take this
forward.
conversation behind
Indoors.
closed doors.
Aha. Yes.
Yes. Let's go. Let's go in, officer, and yeah, let's do that.
All right. Well,
Celia doesn't disapprove this because he is Celia is not afraid of these men.
Sure.
But he is puzzled.
Are you telling me? Okay, tell me. Describe his face. Do we see puzzlement on his face?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so the again, I want externals always.
Yeah.
And so, where do you go? Where do you take them, Arcturus? I believe you are taking them.
So we turn into the building, and there are two ranks of guards of the Castilian Guard on either side in their regalia, with the shields with the half moon on them.
That is bad.
Yeah.
And
that is really bad.
And there are two of them who close the large double doors behind us as we go inside the building with a resounding thud. Inside, it is quite a bit colder than out in the sun. It smells dusty, and we're inside the repository. And we go past the huge hall where official meetings are normally taking place, and into a small sort of tea room at the back of the building. There's small windows overlooking a garden, some tables, and some tea has been prepared.
I love
In
this
fact-
Russo-Italian mashup we've got going here. Yeah.
This is, in fact, where Arcturus was trying to meet with Celia when this whole thing
Oh,
went
right,
down.
because it is all set up, just like you said. Yes, I get it.
And I say, gentlemen, have a seat. Citizen Lieti, you are welcome here. If you may be more civilized than your companions, I'm sure we could sort this out. I won't need very much time to ascertain this gentleman's human or non-human being.
Okay, I take a seat.
The golden-haired man.
So that's the matter at hand, officer. Whether what is your name, sir? Actually, how should I refer to you?
My name is Celia.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did you say?
Could you spell that, please?
I'm Manhattan.
Officer, what did you know? What's your name? Say your name again, please.
My name is Celia.
You mean like the city? The
Yeah.
city we're in.
Yes, this man seems very convinced that is in fact his legal name. I have seen no documents to prove this.
Celia looks really angry, or like he was puzzled before, but after he saw the shields with half moon in them, he's like ominous looking. Radiating ominous.
Is something wrong? Do you
Yes.
have perhaps a family name?
No, because I have no family.
Oh,
My family has all been killed.
Oh, I'm certainly sorry to hear that. When did that happen?
Were these recent murders?
Long ago. It happened long ago, but I will not forget who did it or whose relatives did it.
I will call over my secretary. Please, Master Cthilia, if that is your real name, could you please inform my secretary of the names of the deceased?
I'm afraid you will not find them in your books of people you have categorized.
Do you come from a place far away, Mr. Celia?
I come from a place far away in the past.
He speaks in riddles like this. It's endless.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Far away in the past.
Yes.
All right.
Master Cthilia, I should inform you that if you do not cooperate with this merchant here, a good citizen Lieti, likely you will be considered unfit mentally to serve and relegated to manual labor in somewhere.
Oh, come on. Please, officer, I don't think we need to go that far. After all, he is answering all of our questions. I think he's being...
Seems to me he hasn't answered a single one.
Well, he's giving us answers, is what I mean. Perhaps I actually would like, if you allow me, that your secretary took note of everything our guest here is telling us. So you say you come from a place far away in time. Perhaps have you been traveling for long?
I've been sleeping.
You see?
You've been and for how long have you been sleeping, Celia?
Longer than either of us, Mr. Lieti.
Yes. I've been asleep for 200 years.
And where have you been sleeping, if I might ask you? Because I don't know of a good place where I can. I couldn't even get a good sleep last night in my own quarters, you know. So I would really like to know of a place where you can sleep for how many years? You said 200 years.
I think that I have answered enough of your questions. I think that you should think about the power you are dealing with here. You both are men of power and men who like to have more power. And I am the one who can give it to you. Through me you can wield power that changes the world. And sir, if you hadn't stopped me yesterday, you would have already seen what I could have accomplished here.
So I turn towards Lieti and I say, Mr. Lieti, you can see the problem here. This man isn't exactly abnegating his potential magical status. And if that is the case, I cannot simply turn him over to the merchants. He's potentially in violation of a number of the city's regulations.
But those I know your hands are a bit tied in this matter, but this foreigner is obviously confused, and you know, those you know, you come from a very old, very distinguished line of officials, you know, of officers, and your task is paramount to the well-being of the city. As you well know, our laws against magic are almost as old and barely used as magic itself. I'm not sure he poses a threat.
Of course he poses a threat. Do you know what happened yesterday in the marketplace? He ensorcelled a small child and we had to shoot him. For all I know, the child may be dead by now, although I did offer them some gold for his medical expenses. But this man is clearly a danger to the society unless he can prove otherwise. I cannot simply release him. Besides, we have a lot to learn from him, I believe.
That I am in agreement with. We have a lot to learn from him, so I'm curious at what he has to say. Mr. Celia, I'll have you know, I must. I thank you for your offer.
If you want to understand me, and if you want to understand the power that I wield, you have to come with me and see the Moon Gate.
The what gate?
The Moon Gate?
The Moon Gate. The Moon Gate can show you my world as it was.
I see, but Mr. Celia,
Yes.
Mr. Celia, as I was saying, I thank you for your offer of power that is able to change the world.
Narrator has a question.
As you see,
Okay.
yes.
Yes. Go ahead.
Katere, do you want to show them the Moon Gate immediately?
If they comply and they wish to go, then I can deliver them to the Moon Gate.
I wish to see the Moon Gate, but I do not wish Mr. Lieti to see the Moon Gate.
Mr. Lieti, do you want to go see the Moon Gate or not?
What? I have to answer to you right now? I can then whatever I was saying?
Yes, correct. I'm very interested in whether you want to go do this thing that he's talking about.
Right now? No, of course not. I don't care about the Moon Gate.
That's what I figured. I'm just checking. I'm making sure. We are
Mr.
hovering
Lieti,
on the edge of any number of potential conflicts. I want to see which one comes to a boil.
Mr. Lieti, as you can see, we were in the middle of a fine chat over tea when your brethren showed up here.
Yes,
and we
as I
would
was
very
saying,
much like to return to it.
Santiago was in the middle of something, so yeah.
Yeah, Celia, as I was saying, I thank you for your generous offer of, as you said, willpower that can share. But you may not know this, but I already wield such a power.
What?
Stilia laughs, and I say, the power, you cannot even imagine the power, not that you could wield it.
When all this talk of power happens, guards gather by the door, and I kind of wave them to stand back. You don't need to interfere just yet.
I'm sure there's dozens of types of power that I can't imagine, Mr. Celia. If anything, because my imagination is actually pretty sharp and focused one. I deal
Have
in
you been drinking, Mr. Lieti?
What, me?
Yes.
Just the usual. Why?
You say sharp and focused, and yet I feel there's a scent about you of liquor.
Well, I'm sorry. I don't mean to. I'm not sure if I'm going to bore our guests, but I have just the greatest story to tell you, officer, about last night at the.
I stand up out of the chair. Stand up out of the chair. Arcturus stands up out of the chair and says, "Mr. Lieti, things are becoming more and more clear to me. As you can see, Stilia and I were in the middle of a very involved investigation into his history, which must be settled. Now, I invite you to go and speak to your brethren outside and we will reconvene tomorrow. Guards, please, would you show Mr. Lieti to the door? When he has sobered up, we can continue this.
What do you do, Santiago?
Is that the sound of dice?
That's what I thought, yes. I like the sound of dice.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll fetch some myself.
I look at Celia in the eye and tell him, do you want to get out of here?
I can get out of here the minute I want to.
Very well then. I'm afraid, officer, you may not get much out of this prisoner yet.
I take.
Do we have like business cards in this day and age?
Why do you need a business card when you're a well-known personage?
You don't need.
I shake Celia's hand and I tell him, if you ever would like to continue to have a chat with me, I would be honored. You can find me. Everyone in the city knows me. My name is Marcus Lieti, head of the Merchants Guild, or soon to be.
I love that self-description.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So I take you aside into the hallway. I say, Mr. Lieti, I heard what you said about the Merchants Guild. Perhaps I could give you a leg up to stand at their forefront. Is there any way I can help you?
Well, yes, actually.
I have many things here in the repository which normal people don't have access to. All kinds of confiscated goods, lost secrets.
Do you have any of those handy dragon coins this man was giving out the other day?
Of course. Right here.
All right. Any non-magical items?
Sorry, say that again, Santiago.
Any old but non-magical items?
Magical or non-magical?
You know, how do you say?
He just wanted to know what you already said. Did you say magical or non-magical? We couldn't tell.
Oh, I said non-magical.
Right.
Yes, of course.
What do you have? I'm interested in. I'm starting to get a bit of an interest in the history of Celia.
I have an assistant here who could show you to 4 floors of underground repositories. Anything pertaining to the history of this city is here. I have made sure of it.
And who has access to those 4 floors? Does everyone need your personal approval to enter them?
Yes, I would send you with a trusted person for a limited duration. Now, I'm afraid my guest must be getting impatient and I should get back to him.
I was kind of wondering what he would do left up to his own.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm curious about what the Dragon Man is doing when you guys are not looking.
Dragon Man is drawing images on top of the table with his finger, and he carves things onto the table, and it's arcane symbols. He draws arcane symbols in the table, and they stay there, like he draws them.
Arcturus is never going to want to let you leave after this.
That's right. Well, listen, people. I'd like to know. You guys have come to some agreement. Are you going to go to the repository where is every single person going to go in the next minute?
I want to ask Arturus to give me the dragon coins, which I will use to ease the masses.
No problem.
That's what I tell him anyway.
I have a pouch of them. It's probably a small pouch. I don't know how many Celia was carrying, but
small amount.
Perhaps a dozen of them or so in a bag. And
these are all the dragon coins you collected?
Most of them.
Are you aware that that there are any other dragon coins in possession of anyone in the city?
Not that I'm aware of, but anything is possible.
All right. Well, I thank you then for a most wonderful evening. I shall be heading out.
You're most welcome. Let me know if there's any way I can further help you with the merchants. I think this alliance will be most beneficial to us both.
Yes, I'm thinking.
And now I'm anxious to get back to my guest.
And when you get back to the room, you see the table is full of symbols, and there's like moon and the stars and some arcane banners or images of some. You have seen them in some old books, very old books. There, I feel that there is the table is made of wood, and the color of these images is yellow, like on top of the wood. And he draws.
Is this the Peteri? Is this the moon gate?
Yes, this will be the moon gate.
Perfect.
So Arcturus rushes forward, and with trembling hands, he's exploring the tabletop, and his mind is racing, and he's looking, and he looks up at you with awe. Says,
and
what is this?
When you touch the table, he say, I say with an eerie voice, "Do not touch the symbols, or the magic will go away." And I conclude the imagery until the table is filled of images, and after that. The images start to glow with yellowish color.
Master Stilia, this is highly illegal. Guards, leave us.
That's right. Yeah.
And they glow and they pulse, and they start to rhythmically pulse in and out the images.
So I lock the door and I tell the guards, do not disturb us for at least an hour. I must interrogate the subject. And then I return to the table with a look of fascination and awe. I'm probably kneeling by the table and looking up at
Arcturus makes me feel dirty. He totally does.
He's almost drooling with excitement.
That's great.
Peteri,
Yeah.
what happens?
Yes, and the images start to move on the table. They move and they intertwine, and they form new images. Some of them vanish, and some of them glow and form new ones. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, the tabletop becomes like a lens to another world, and you see through this an open sky with a mountain top, and you see a dragon flying a dragon is flying next to the mountain, and you can like feel the open air around him, and you are filled with awe and irresistible longing for the past.
Who names conflicts?
You can name a conflict if we don't, the players of the characters can name conflicts, And if somebody narrates something that the other character's player can't like take in, he wants to oppose it.
Yes.
Now I'm going to say that you are going to be forever longing to the past that once was because of this magic.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say that he's going to completely flip you. That you're going to become a devoted acolyte of dragondom and the way that was. You're going to be losing a great deal of yourself as conceived if this occurs.
Yeah.
Do you? Well, to me, this is actually somewhat part of Arcturus's self. So he wouldn't be resisting this very hard. The problem would be how to portray it to others. But I think he's very interested in getting some secrets out of Stylia here.
I see, however, a conflict.
Yeah,
I do.
Me too.
Because basically I just don't see Arcturus giving up all this repression and all of this need to go. He's going to have to lose control. If you do this, if you go all the way and abandon yourself to it, you lose all control over it. So,
well,
right,
I'm a little
right.
That's a little vague for me. What do you picture happening here?
Well, I'm continuing. I'm saying that this is an intrinsic notion of conflict here, which is that a great deal of your character is at risk. That a great deal of his self-image, a great deal of his purpose. That's as far as I want to go with that right now. I also see a conflict in terms of Scythia, because basically this is the most important man in the city as far as you're concerned. If you can get him under your spell, then you are going to be very, very much, you're going to be a lot safer. You're going to have an official position. You're going to be basically a powerful figure in the social matrix of this city, which currently you're not.
Yeah.
And so he literally threatens your power, Arcturus.
Yeah.
He can co-opt you.
Now
while you're over there jerking off over the past, he's going to be running your office. So
is that what Stylia is interested in?
Yes, Stylia is interested in power.
Yes.
I see.
He's trying to become.
Because I was going to basically offer
what I'm seeing.
I'm not
right. I'm seeing a conflict.
How are you thinking?
Say that again.
So Stylia wants to take over the repository, as it were, the role of repository.
Stylia wants you to become my slave.
Right.
You are my slave.
So taking over the office thereof is not the point. The point is running the office.
Yeah, because the office itself, Stylia, it doesn't even understand what your office is. It's like, I don't care about your office. You have this city and you're small people running around in this city, running around in circles amongst each other. And I'm bringing you the past where the dragons were kings and you were subjects, but you loved it because we were so magical.
Yeah, of course. Arcturus is obsessed with this stuff. So
it's very attractive, but remember, this same obsession has also given him a position of privilege, of power, of being able to make up the rules the way he wants to, and I think he's pretty used to that.
Yeah, and
it's been patently obvious that you've been making up the laws and the rules as you go along, even as you claim to be abiding by them. And so, therefore, you're going to give all that up just so you can go and look at pictures of magic dragons?
So let's frame it like this. I think that Arcturus is totally shaken by all this, right? And he's entranced by this image, but he also wants to control it.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
he snaps his fingers and calls for the guards.
Yeah.
Right.
That
And they
is a
come through the
concept.
door, and this is where we're going to settle.
Yeah. Who's in
Which
charge
way?
here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's in charge? Meanwhile, out of
Yes.
curiosity, Santiago, is Lieti going to try to appropriate anything that he finds in the repository, especially those things that go bang?
No, I just. You
The
know what?
repository has basically everything that has been confiscated in the city for the last 2 decades.
Right.
It includes magical things, experimental firearms, historical artifacts.
Anyone sitting? Is there like a receptionist on the?
There is the
repository?
trusted. There is the trusted person who is armed, who is accompanying you. The trusted person has made you sign 18 different things saying how you are not to touch, talk of, appropriate,
Right.
or otherwise disturb any of these items. And by the way, this also makes you a deputy of this particular branch on a temporary basis and subject to every imaginable order from Arcturus.
Right. So I asked, I chat the guy up. I took a look at the. I take a glance at the repository. Maybe I walk a bit, but mainly I chat with the guy, the receptionist. I chat him up. I ask him. So how long has it been since anyone consulted this? Since anyone visited, like I'm doing right now?
He will name 1 or 2 people that might surprise you. There is a business rival of yours, and there is also the one of the head religious people of the city. It's a very boring religion. The religion is mostly about making money and being comfortable and being rewarded for it and stuff like that. It's kind of nice little suburban religion in many ways, and very firm. No state power whatsoever, but a great deal of educational power.
Yeah, and so do they come here often? How long
No,
since the
no, just they were here and they signed the forms. It's a very nice relationship.
Yes, but I'm not sure if I'm communicating this well. How long has it been since anyone came here?
Let me put it this
How
way.
long?
This guy is very well trained and not giving you any valuable information. Would you like to get valuable information out of him?
Yes, very much so.
Conflict. Everybody. Santiago, you're up. Lieti's up against the world. You two are up against each other. Pick your traits.
Yeah. Okay.
Does it make
That-
sense to resolve them both at once?
Of course.
Yes, because
They're
we
not
can.
against one another. They're running in parallel.
And this means that Ron, you are both Burden and Crane's reader.
You
Oh,
guys are all fucked now. So,
No kidding. We're
Yeah.
really screwed.
And so what
yeah.
I'd like to get across is, Peteri, what you just observed was the flashpoint technique. You have different people in different locations, and you bring one group of them into, you play them both until one hits a conflict, then you leave them and go to the other and play him until he gets into conflict.
Yeah,
And
that's
then you resolve them all
really
at once.
that's
Yeah.
interesting. We have had conflicts that are not related in the same scene, but the characters have always been in the same place.
Right. So, and there's
That's
no reason,
interesting.
it makes no difference. Everyone
Yeah,
thinks it's different if everybody's in different locations. It's not
Yeah.
different.
It
So-
works. It works.
So let's go
Yep.
ahead and look at the traits. I'll just go around as I see you. Paul, what traits do you have in your bandolier?
So Arcturus is cunning.
Arcturus, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
He's got the secret police at his beck and call.
Yes.
He pulls out Dragon Finger, which is in a highly advanced 4-chamber pistol, which would terrify Stylia.
That's right. Yes. Okay. Yes. You're making
he's
a
an-
big show of power here. Okay.
And he's an experienced inquisitor. He knows people. He knows how to get them to spill their secrets.
Excellent.
That's 8 dice.
Okay. Lieti, what traits are you using?
Well, I'm using get things done. because
Right.
this is regular for me to get in the good side of someone and get information.
Yeah, well, you're just going to find out when that trait doesn't apply sooner or later. That's all I have to say. But right now it applies. Go ahead. Future narrators, take note, please.
I'm going to use arrogant. I want to.
Perfect. Yes.
I want to have an air of I have the right to be here and be asking
completely
questions.
understand.
Yes.
Anything else?
Yeah, of course. I will use self-made man. I mean, I have been against people with positions of power in my work.
You're up against a bureaucrat. You're up against a bureaucrat who doesn't give a shit about privilege or status, so that's not going to work. Arrogant will work. He doesn't care if you're self-made or not. That's not. This is an official situation you're dealing with, not somebody who considers himself currently in authority. I mean, he's not in authority. You're not. So it's not going to work very well. So, but
I get it.
Yeah, but the other two will. So.
All right. So I can't. So you said he doesn't care about authority.
No, he doesn't care that you're self-made versus anything else. It's all bullshit to him. It's
yes. So So I can't use filthy rich either. He doesn't care that I'm rich.
Are you going to try to bribe him?
If I have to, of course.
Then you can use filthy rich.
And you have the dragon too.
Yeah, money always talks. So.
And on the road to power, I want to use because I have a plan for all this stuff.
Oh yeah, on the road to power. I get that. Yes, absolutely. Okay. The consequences, of course, if you fail, or even burdens, if it comes down to the filth. Just keep in mind about that filthy rich and burdens, and I'm looking forward to that part quite a bit. Now, Terry, what traits?
Dragon for 3.
Yes.
Theatrical for 2. And ancient knowledge for 1.
Absolutely, everybody's got them, and I believe that all we do now is roll.
You have the grains.
Grains. What am I thinking? Okay. Oh, I means I have to go look at the list. All right. Okay. So first of all, the world has changed. Is on Paul's side.
Okay. So I take 2 dice for that.
2 dice.
A worm is not a man. 2 dice goes to Scythia. The wheel-lock firearms goes 2 dice goes to Arcturus.
Okay. 2.
Let's see. Greed and magic contradict each other is 3 dice in the favor of Scythia.
Ooh.
Because this is a form of greed, I believe. I am being very. I think that Arcturus is a very greedy person at heart.
Sure.
And so then, so those are the grains in that conflict. The grains that oppose Lieti. First of all, some in the city are developing experimental weapons in secret. Is actually indirectly working. Well, let's see. No, go on. The repository is working against you. You're going against the repository's basic existence, which is to keep this stuff confiscated and forbidden, and you're going to obey the rules or else. So that's 2 against you. Let's see. Magic's unstoppable. Old customs are being discarded. Is that it?
Do you have new exotic cuisine? Not relevant, but is it on your list?
No, that's definitely not relevant. And also, let's see. Maybe. Okay, what's your suggestion? Hey, Terry?
No, I was thinking about that. old customs, but I don't know
Yeah.
who it helps.
Yeah, I know.
It
I'm
doesn't.
thinking a little bit as well.
Yeah.
I want to suggest that in my favor, of course.
Yeah.
The experimental weapons could apply if you want.
I've been thinking about it. But really,
Could see it either way.
yeah. But really, I think that the experimental aspect of it all has not come up at all. It doesn't apply. It has
Well,
not been played. I've
2
been
dice
thinking
for
about
the world is okay. So
Yeah. So
Oh, am I getting see now? Sorry about
it's
that.
the repository is working against Lieti, and the I think Scythia is a monumental city of commerce and trade is also working against you, and that may sound a little arbitrary, but it isn't. It's a lot bigger than you. You're one guy.
One person. How
Guy,
much can that?
and you're really working against a big webwork of power here, of which this is part. And I think that it's that you're really being a maverick here, and it's the webwork of power is not working in your favor. So that's 4 dice against you.
okay.
We've got to get some grains in here that make Lieti's life hard. That's all I've got to say. Grains that are on your.
I thought you were talking to me. I'm so happy right now.
Let's see.
He has horrible burdens. So
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So all right, let's go ahead and say that. Now, any grains that are working for you, there really aren't that much.
Merchants,
The old
maybe?
customs, I think. Well, the old customs are the magic customs.
What about the merchants are bringing in slave trade?
It's not really relevant to what he's doing here with this guy and the access to the repository. I think that we are really not in a very grainy conflict right now, or a very pure grainy conflict rather than so that's all I've got. I don't see any grains in your favor.
okay.
Sounds good.
Ron.
I wanted to suggest one, but I don't know if you heard me.
Which was?
I wanted to work in my favor the one that is the old customs are being discarded.
I was wondering about that. The old customs, to me, this isn't an old custom. This is modern.
This is a new thing. This is a very new thing.
The repository is modern. That's what I was thinking. It's the old ones are all pertaining to magic and stuff like that.
All right.
Ron, you can roll for the world, right?
Yes, I can. And then what about burdens? I think that in the case
they don't come into play yet.
Oh, they don't.
Burden.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Let's roll.
Okay, go ahead and roll, folks.
It's better you and I are both going to fold so hard in this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fold. I'm the Disney princess.
That's right.
Oh, I rolled very big.
Uh-oh.
Well, I think we need some dragon action. The men have the people have been running around causing all sorts of havoc with their things. Paul, you are really sunlit right now. You look practically you look radiant.
There's not much I can do. The good news is it will go away soon.
Okay.
This is
I have 9.
9. Good Lord. I have 7.
Mm-hmm. And Lieti?
Well, I rolled 7 dice, and I have 1 6, 2 5s, and the rest are all 3s. So I got 4
points. 4 points.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right then. Then the burdens come in. Is that correct?
Yes, unless someone wants to invoke Shadow here.
That's right. Shadow.
Ron, what did you roll?
Right. Well, and I believe I only had 2 dice, correct? Or no?
4. You had 4 dice.
Right. Okay. So
4 dice.
Let me quickly get to that. I said I would roll, and then I got all excited in something else. So I have only 1 point.
Ooh.
So
okay.
Lieti's winning at 4 against 1.
Yeah. And now, if someone wants to invoke Shadow, I do not. I'm winning already.
Interesting.
Paul, you can. Lieti is already winning if your burdens won't stop you.
Well, I haven't.
Yeah.
I have great intention to yank in every burden that I can. So
Yeah.
everyone is,
So-
of course, encouraged to roll shadow because I am that kind of narrator.
I think I'm not going to invoke Shadow. Although, yes, I'm not going to invoke Shadow.
All
Okay.
those dice, Paul.
Well, I'm not. I can't think of anything that Arcturus would do that would be terribly.
You're all
Shadow-like
in.
and
You just
interesting.
threatened him anyway. You're the most sinister son of a bitch in the whole story. Just by looking at people, you invoke shadow. As far as I'm concerned.
Well, at the moment he's doing his job. He's got this guy under custody, and he's doing illegal magic.
Okay. I'm not saying you have to. I just think you're imbued with shadow. How about you? Is Lieti?
I'm just not having an idea right off.
I don't think you need to worry about an idea. Invoke shadow if you want to.
We can come up with ideas.
Yeah, you don't
can
have to worry. I don't like the justification thing. The dice are there to use if you want them. Feel free. Santiago, do you want to invoke shadow?
I turn on the light.
Yes.
How does it look?
Is that a no?
That sounds like a no.
Yeah.
Although the light casts shadow.
Was it better the moment before?
It's Santiago. It's okay. Let's play.
Okay. No, I don't want shadow.
Paul.
Nope.
And Peteri also said no. So no shadow.
Yes.
Now let's
No
go to
burden.
Okay.
Yes.
And I will start with whoever is winning by a lot, which I believe is Peteri. And
I'm winning by 2. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, no. Lieti's winning by 1. So let's go to him. By 3. I mean.
What? Yeah, 3. Yeah.
He's winning by 3. So burdens. Let's see. This is very definitely a doesn't know his own limits. Does the paranoia come into this? I don't think that I've seen the paranoia. I think that it might creep in or it might be increased by this if appropriate, but I don't think that it's currently causing him trouble. This is definitely doesn't know his own limits. That's 2 points of burdens, which means you have to re-roll 2 dice starting with your highest. And well,
do you mean that jealous of the gentry doesn't?
No, it doesn't really apply here. He's not up against gentry. I thought about that.
Yeah.
And then hold on, before you roll, don't roll yet. I'm scrolling and I'm not very dexterous with computers. So let's see. So burdens for Stilia are, where the hell are your burdens? They're
at the top.
Being right. Hunger for power is actually working against you at this point because you are this is you're overplaying your hand quite a bit. This guy knows a lot more about magic than you may have realized, and his ability to harness what's going on is very real. You are dealing. Perhaps you didn't know this. I don't know if Cynthia really realized this or not. You are dealing effectively with a wizard, as I have mentioned before.
Yeah.
And the ways of wizards do not provoke wizards, for they are subtle and quick to anger.
Yeah.
So you have ways of the old and new collide. That's actually not working against you right now because you are, yes, they are colliding, but they are colliding in a way that works for you, that you have initiated. They are not actually working against you. The presence of the pistol kind of evens that out. It doesn't actually swing it against you. And so I don't believe that I do burdens for Arcturus at this time.
No, not yet.
Not yet. So re-roll, both of the two of you, for the appropriate number of dice, and then we'll take a look at the new values.
Yes.
I believe it was 1 for Freddy, 2 for Santiago.
Just in case.
I lost 2 points, so now I'm at 7.
7. Okay, so that's still more than you, right, Arcturus?
No, it's a tie now. It is a tie now. I have 7.
Oh,
But I have a lot of burdens.
right. And so
I don't know how. Yeah, we'll see.
Your
Yes.
burdens suddenly become relevant now that you're tied.
Yes.
That's my understanding.
Yes.
But before that,
Indeed.
Lieti, where are you now? What is your new total?
So I took my 6 and my 5, I rolled them. My 5 remained a 5, but now my 6 is turning to a 2.
Ah, so you have 2 points rather than 4 points, but you are still winning.
Yes.
Okay, so now we are now going to go to, hates relying, okay, obsessed with the past is working against you. Hates relying on its arcane knowledge is working against you. And that is all. So you have made, that's 2 dice. You have
I have 2 6s. I have 2 6s. I'm re-rolling them. And I have lost them both. A 2 and a 3.
Oh, ouch.
So now I only have 3 points.
Okay, so 7 on 3, 2 on 1. That is the situation.
And then the flame.
Okay, is anybody interested in rolling flame?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So go ahead. You let me know what happens. Well, how many points of flame are you going? Well, wait. Do them one at a time, of course.
One at a time. Yeah.
Oh, you could use flame several times in one conflict.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so I'm erasing one from my sheet and re-rolling all my dice that are not points.
Yes.
Well, that didn't go too well, but I didn't roll any ones. Oh, actually, that's not bad. I have 5 new points. So now I'm at 8.
8
well, I had,
against 6, I believe.
8.
8, yes.
Now the question, do you stay here? Because if you now give your turn away, you won't be able to use any more flame. But I will possibly use my flame next.
I'll stay here.
Okay. Pateri.
I have lots of flame, and I'm going to use it. Because I've been pushed around enough.
That's what I think, yes.
Let's hit some. Oh.
This is getting interesting.
I get 6 more.
Wow.
So I'm at 13.
Well, yeah, I cannot possibly compete with that.
Now, let's have, well, you know, he wrote the character and he's the operator and he got to play him first and all the rest of it. So, you know, that's how it goes. I knew we were up against it. So, what then do we take, what then do we see with the procedure, Pateri? Make sure I don't miss something this time.
Yes. Lieti is winning with 1, right?
Yes.
So Lieti, Santiago can alter the world with 1 point.
Correct.
And
Santiago, go ahead. What do you want to do? What do you want to do with the grains list with 1 point?
And Ron, you can give Lieti 1 point of burden.
No problem.
So you can increase an existing one or add a new one, right?
Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah.
Increase an existing one, add a new one. I don't think I can reduce them.
Yeah.
So
you can only increase.
I'll try to do it from the phone. Let me see. I just add a grain?
We'll tell you what, why don't you say it, and then somebody with a more reliable connection a reliable method can type it in.
Sure, I can type.
Paul's the safest for typing right now. So what will you do?
So, I want a grain that says the Xilian or whatever.
Yes.
the first Xilian museum is coming.
Oh. That's interesting.
Museum of Wonders is coming. The first Xilian of Wonders is coming.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Okay. And so then over there we have, I believe, I'm going to increase his burden by 1.
Do you want me to type this in as well, Ron?
Yes.
I'm happy to.
And I believe I'm going to increase his paranoid.
Aha, okay. So it goes to 3.
And the reason for that is that if you're interested, not that I have to give one, but the reason is that you are now carrying around forbidden items and you know that you broke the rules of the repository and that Arcturus is probably going to find out sooner or later. It's just one more person. Even though you made that little pact with him, you're pretty sure he didn't want you wandering off with nifties. So,
When did I take stuff?
Well, at least you have the coins. At least you have the
What?
coins.
what I'm
Well,
saying, right? What I'm
the
saying,
coins.
yes. Well, if you're not going to take something from the repository,
No.
you got away without signing, right? So,
Or you signed something you shouldn't have, perhaps.
right. All I'm saying is that you've got more paranoid. You're dealing with a very dangerous person, and you know it.
Perfect.
Okay. So,
Or maybe you saw something down there that
of
makes you
course
point.
he saw something down there. For God's sake, that's what down there means. So, the next thing is burdens for the two of you, correct?
Yes, and we decide them.
Yes, that's right. The loser pops it onto the winner.
Yes.
So, Paul, burden the hell out of Scythia now.
You give 5 points.
5 points of burdens.
And what about changes to grains? Is that a separate step?
Yeah.
I
Ron.
think- yeah, Terry, don't you do that? No, I'm.
No, you do it. 5
Okay.
points of grains.
Oh my God. All right, I have to think.
That's a
about this.
big one.
Yeah,
That
I
is
know,
a
I know.
big one.
I'm going to actually. Paul, you go ahead and burden him while I write down the grains and figure it out.
Can I increase things more than 1 point?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to increase your hunger for power to a 3.
Yes.
And I'm going to say the monster is unveiled.
Oh, that
Or-
is cool. That is
For
great.
also 3 points.
I love
You
that.
understand? I think you understand what I mean. Yes.
Yeah, that I
So you
Totally
reveal your
get it.
monstrous nature to the guards and everyone
Yeah.
here.
yeah. I have to include it in the narration soon.
Ah, okay, good.
And then
I better just copy them to your sheet as well.
yes. And then I will give you 1 point of burden also.
I'm almost ready.
I will increase your obsessed with the past to 3.
Yes, excellent. I'm making all these changes, by the way, in case someone else is trying to.
Yeah, you can. I won't do anything if you are doing it. So, this is great. And
This is fantastic. Absolutely.
and Ron has changed the world with 5 points. I wonder what has happened.
The moon gate is open, 1 point.
Yes.
Increase a worm is not a man by 1 point.
Yes.
The repository gains 1 point.
Okay.
Magical wondrous tales sweep the city, 1 point.
Which spelling of tails?
Oh, the stories. Magical wondrous stories sweep the city. Rumors,
Just check.
tales, stories.
Just checking. Good.
The Merchants Guild is seizing power, 1 point.
If that's a new one, you're not increasing the current one.
The
Okay.
current one is what, the slave trade thing?
Yeah.
No, increase that by 1. Good point. Might as well
You
stay
could also
consolidated. No,
you could also
I'd rather.
write it.
I don't want to sprawl too much.
But you could also rewrite its description, right, Pateri?
Yes, if you increase a grain, you can also rephrase it a bit.
That's right.
If
We've
you
already done that at least once. I'm
So
going
why
to
don't-
I'm going to increase that one and rephrase it slightly, which is that the merchants, the slave merchants. Sorry, the slave merchants are seizing power.
And now we must narrate, and me and Santiago must narrate. I must narrate what happens in the room and Santiago must narrate what he does in the repository actually.
So here's where you actually, Santiago, you get to choose whether you take something or anything like that. It's up to you.
No, no. Well, I actually remember that this whole thing started because I wanted to know more about.
That's right.
How many people are interested right now in the here and stuff. I want to know as much of it as I can. But
if you're asking me what that means, in my opinion, because you can narrate, but
yes, that's what I wonder. I have to. Do I narrate or do you narrate because you narrated before? Okay. I narrate.
You
what
narrate.
I find out.
You narrate what you find out, but if I can make suggestions, if you're interested.
And you have to accommodate that the grains have changed. We know that the slave merchants are seizing power.
Yes, well, something that I'm actually a bit more interested in narrating, but I'm not sure if it's out of scope. I would actually like to get out of the repository and ease the masses, but I'm not sure if this is
right.
If this is beyond of where
you're narrating the outcome of the conflict. You're not narrating what you do next necessarily.
Yeah.
So in this case, I'm going to suggest that you, if it's okay with you, I'm going to suggest that you learn all about Arcturus' invisible network of influence that he just tried to add you to.
Yes.
That seems to be more or less what you were aiming to find out, and that's what you do find out. You find out about all the little deals and tricks and accommodations and access that he's provided to different people. And you get
I would like to know is Arcturus, like, maybe Paul can answer this. Arcturus is like his own boss, he's the head of the department, or he answers to someone else?
I think there's somebody on a city council that maybe is supposed to be over. It's sort of like there's secret police or something like that. Where
absolutely he's absolutely the secret police.
So officially there's somebody in charge, but they're not really supposed to know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, because they don't want to be responsible for it. Besides, you can always say it's not safe for me to tell you. That always works.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yes, exactly. But who decides what happens with the stuff that is saved on the repository?
Oh, I do.
You do?
Yes.
All right. So say a person had something they would like to donate to the repository, they will talk to you.
Sure.
Usually it works the other way around. Paul suggests that they donate it to the repository.
Yeah, I get it. So it is
and
him.
If they don't want to, they can go there themselves.
That's right.
What?
And
what did you say?
If they don't want to donate it, then they get to make a visit. They get to visit.
Yes.
Okay, so, well, I guess I should ask you, Paul, then, what I was wondering, which is, because I feel weird narrating it myself. I mean, in regards to the repository itself, not the whole deal of Arcturus' shop, the sending people to death and secret police, and the repository is like a piece of that. I mean, the repository itself as a place that exists, that some people can get in and see what's in there, some people can't. So some stuff gets added. What I really want to know from a visit is how much movement does that place have? Does people come often to see things? Does anyone never come?
Yeah, very little. There's very little change.
Every day they add a new thing, or it's like once a year a new magical item comes. Like this guy that the receptionist is he sees a person like me once a year or every day. You know, it's like a library. How often people take out books?
No, not at all. It's very secret. Very few people are allowed. You were granted a very unusual privilege, and everyone will know that you've been here.
And who will know that I've been here, you said?
Well, I will, and all the people who work with me.
All right.
I mean, I know already, but it'll definitely be on the record.
And new things come here often, or only once in a while?
It's quite rare now. Maybe at the very beginning, a lot of things were confiscated. Now it's rare.
So most of the stuff is just sitting there gaining dust.
Yes.
You know, it's not like like in some places, a pile of stuff that they haven't put into an inventory yet, and they have to put into the system. This doesn't have that problem. This is the opposite. Like everything is stale, and very rarely something comes in.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't think it's gathering much dust because Arcturus goes in there with a special cloth and like polishes it when nobody's looking. So.
Oh yeah, he's that every free minute he's down there.
Right. All right.
Oh, so you come here often. You come here often. Ah, I get it now.
Private
Well-
meditation and reflection.
I think it depends how much work there is. You know, if he has free time, he comes often, but maybe he's busy lately.
Right. Okay.
Yes, but isn't like when you need to stroll in a place to think, you come to this place?
Sure.
All right. Yes, that's everything I needed to know. I'm so happy.
Let's see. Excellent. Peteri.
Okay. Yes. Arcturus shouts the guards and is.
And he draws his gun also. The
Yes,
dragon.
he draws his gun, and this time Scylla doesn't is not afraid of the gun. He just comes close to you and says, "This is what you have been waiting for. Now you put down that gun and you fulfill your destiny with me." And
I
then
think that for Arcturus, the gun is more protecting himself than threatening Scylla.
I'm taking away this nasty gun so we can be more intimate in this correlation.
I was gonna say I'm covering my eyes. I mean.
Yeah.
No.
And then the guards come to intervene, and this lovely and romantic scene. And then they come in and they see the moon gate and they are bewildered and they act on instinct and they attack Scylla. And Scylla is, Scylla is, he just grabs them and throws them all over the room. One of the guards grapples him and he takes him and literally breaks him in two.
Ooh.
Like pulls him apart, and blood flies everywhere, and blood is going to like enforce this bond that we have now.
Oh man.
Man, last night in my Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition game, a player character Minotaur had sex with a burly goblinoid woman.
Okay.
And I didn't feel as dirty then as I do now. So you just go right ahead.
So it sounds like this is turning into a blood ritual of bonding of something.
Partly, yeah.
Yeah.
And moonlight and everything.
Yeah. Some blood is flying on top of the table and mixes into the symbols in the moon gate and forms interesting and vivid images. And then when we are some of the guards escape from the building. Some of the I don't get all of the guards. When I've killed some of them, the other ones escape. They escape and they run away, and that is why the beast is revealed. And then when all this nonsense is dealt with, we can have like a close moment between us when I
Fantastic.
show you the true meaning of magic and what is truly to be in the old world. Something you have longed for in your entire
whole
life,
life.
and now you see
Sure.
it.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right then.
Time to vote.
So who are we voting for at present?
All characters, but let's start with
who's first? I mean,
Arcturus. Maybe Arcturus. Flame
Okay.
for Arcturus. 1, 2, 3.
I can't see you, Patetti.
Yeah.
Sorry. 1 point.
Okay, so 1 point to
Yeah,
you.
one.
Okay.
1 point of flame.
Mhm.
And then Shadow. 1, 2, 3.
I'm not looking at the screen.
Sorry.
What did you guys?
You get 1 point of shadow.
Shadow.
1 point of flame and
Shadow.
1 point of shadow. Great.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, who do we vote for next?
Okay, Lieti.
Okay.
Flame.
Just 1 second. Okay. Ready.
1, 2, 3.
1 point of flame for Lieti.
Yes.
Okay, I'll put it in.
And then Shadow. 1, 2, 3.
No shadow.
No Shadow.
Okay, so
Dragon. Next. You count.
okay,
'cause I
sure.
can.
1, 2, 3 for flame. 2 points of flame.
Points of flame.
Mhm.
Now, how many did he have before?
I had 3 and I spent 1.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's
Good.
got
So there will
4
be
points of flame.
4.
All right then, and then we were voting for the dragon's shadow, which
Mhm.
in this case was all sorts of now okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 2 points of shadow. All right.
I'm dirty.
That's well, you are all bloody and everything.
You have
You
caught
creeped
up
me
to us
out.
now. With it.
Yeah.
So that leaves him with 4 flame and 3 shadow.
Yeah.
All right.
Marcus has 3 flame and 1 shadow. Zoki 2 flame and 4 shadow. And Arcturus 2 flame and 4 shadow.
So I believe that my tenure as narrator draws to a close as I ask for a final glimpse of everybody. What did you call it? The gloss?
What?
When we let's take a look at everybody just after each conflict. What do I see? I wanted just a physical description of what we see you doing at the close of the conflict.
If you agree, Paul, I would say that we are watching the moon gate and I have a hand on your shoulder.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think Arcturus is even bending over the table with his nose almost touching the image. He's aware that he's not supposed to, and his eyes are rolled back in his head.
So then we have Santiago describe the physicality. Just if we get one last look at Arctur or at Lieti at this moment, what do we see?
Well, I'm finishing skimming one of the, taking a look at one of the books that the receptionist let me see. I mean the bureaucratic books. I don't know how you call them, like from the place.
Yes.
I mean a sort of magical book from the past, anything like that. I mean the books that the people used to work there.
Like a ledger.
Yeah, sort of like that. And I close it like this, and like there's a cloud of dust, and I say my goodbye, and I walk out of the repositorium, or however it's called.
Yes.
All the various merchants are going to ask you, where's the guy?
Oh, sure. I have that all planned in my head already. I know what I'm going to say.
Got it.
That could be an interesting scene actually for next time.
Nah, maybe. I'd like to. We'll see what people think. Well, guys, that I believe concludes our time. But we've. I hope to have demonstrated a cup. I was trying to see how the game dealt with a little bit of flexible narration about where people went and how conflicts would go and stuff like that, and kind of make sure that we're not in lockstep of seeing this guy conflict period. Kind of a stagey way of doing it. Just let what people did generate the conflicts is what I'm up to. So great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was excellent.
Fun. As usual.
Yes.
As usual, it's a real pleasure, everybody. Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.